Would you like a cleaning product that can be used in the garage, the laundry, and the kitchen, and save space in your cabinet? Hi, I'm Bruce Fabrizio, inventor of Simple Green. To learn more, visit us at simplegreen.com.
Now an important message from Exergen. A critical new FDA study proves that the widely used non-contact thermometers are not accurate and have high probabilities for false negative readings. New COVID strands are on the rise, and non-contact manufacturers are being irresponsible at a time when accuracy matters most. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. Don't wait. Switch to Exergen because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Sometimes the best time to prune trees is when they're dormant or with no leaves on them. For ISA certified arborists, it helps them see what branches may need to be pruned or removed. Dormant season pruning can also help lessen problems associated with insects and diseases and help create structurally stronger trees that can better handle heavy wet snows or ice buildup. Contact an ISA certified arborist to get the best professional advice on keeping your trees healthy and safe. Go to treesforohio.org. That's trees, the number 4, ohio.org.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome in. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty, and, of course, Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here. We're live on Facebook. Search the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Like, follow along, and we're doing things a little different today, and, of course, everything's all thrown off. But, Kev, can you hear me? Are we off and rolling? Kev, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, now we're off and rolling. See, it's almost like we should have done a mic check.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are good to go. And I'm sure there's a delay or something that we'll fight through here for the time being. Doing things a little different today at the station. So the entire, basically all of Kettering had a power outage earlier today. And we found out a couple things about our building. We found out that during that power outage, we couldn't come into the building because of the fob key situation being down with the power. And then we couldn't get out of the building because of the security measures put in place there. I never thought that they wanted to keep us in this building so bad, Kev. I think right now we are going to figure out the mic situation here with Kev coming up.
Absolutely,
Kev,
man. You get all that type of technology.
Kev, we're going to try this real quick. So, all right, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Apologize for the tech issues that we're trying to iron out and kind of navigate through, but we'll get that stuff figured out coming up here in the near future. So it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Kev will join us coming up in about 10 minutes as we get that resolved. Sorry for the wonky sounding show to start things off here on this Wednesday. But of course, all day today, it has been nothing about what is going on in the National Football League. And actually, I'm pretty frustrated right now. We should be talking about the Super Bowl and other things right now, right? I'm not frustrated with the individual at hand who is suing the NFL, but it's the NFL who, just when you think it's a sport that that can do no wrong, you talk about how it's a sport that just continues to gain in popularity. It gets bigger and bigger every year, and every time it starts to feel like the NFL is getting back on track, back to being in a situation where all you have to do is just sit back, enjoy, watch, and follow along, the other underlying issues within the league start to overshadow what we should be talking about, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams in the Super Bowl. And you have to sit back and you ask yourself, what in the world, how in the world could this get so big that it's overshadowing the Super Bowl? But it's not just a football story at hand. It's a very big underlying issue that every year we talk about it. Every year we talk about the lack of minorities in the head coaching ranks in the National Football League. African-American head coaches right now, only one in the NFL. And of course, that optic right there is not good. I mean, you could argue, the one and only African-American head coach in the National Football League, to me, in my opinion, is honestly the second best head coach in the entire National Football League, and Mike Tomlin right behind Bill Belichick. But what Brian Flores is bringing to the table, what he is bringing to light, is nothing that we already didn't know. I think what we're starting to find out is a little bit of the details behind the scenes of what exactly goes on in the hiring process and what some of these African-American coaches have to go through during the interview process. The big problem I have is that a rule that was put in place that was supposed to do a lot of good. It was supposed to help, and it was supposed to help increase the chances of African-American head coaches getting more opportunities in the league. Because the rule is there and it's basically just an extra box that needs to be checked off during the interview and hiring process for NFL head coaches, it has now become a mockery. It has now become a sham. It has now become a situation where African-American head coaches who have always been behind the eight ball in regards to getting a fair shot and opportunity, now, as bad as that must feel to be African-American head coaches in line to get these jobs, now I feel like this rule has done more damage than anything because it has put people in very uncomfortable situations. You got to understand something. Like when you talk about the guys like Marvin Lewis and Hugh Jackson, you want to talk about African-American head coaches who are called in for interviews, and they go into these interviews and they feel like, man, I think I got a shot to get this job. I think I really do. I think I'm prepared. I have a good game plan. I know exactly how I want to, start off training camp. I know what my plan is, what to do at quarterback. I know what kind of offense I want to run. I have a lot of knowledge from some of the head coaches I've worked with in the past. I cannot wait to get to my interview. How crappy do you think it must feel for some of these coaches who put their best foot forward to approach these interviews and to approach these opportunities with the right mindset, with the opportunity to further and advance their careers? And not just that, but to make a franchise better. Brian Flores wanted to make the Miami Dolphins winners, and instead got fired because he refused to lose, which is very strange. We'll get to that coming up in a moment. But as far as the Rooney Rule and how it's, a part of the interview process, the fact that these guys are just a box that has to be checked off during the hiring and interview process is a slap in their face. And I think it does more damage than anything. These guys they step into these interview opportunities to help make a franchise better. And instead, while they're giving it their all, while they're putting their emotions on their sleeve, while they're doing everything they can to get this job, they're making eye contact with an individual across the table from them who's putting on a show, who's making them feel like, oh, yeah, wow, that's very impressive. Wow, thanks for coming in. Yeah, we'll look this over and, we'll get back to you within the next couple of hours or the next couple of days. And I appreciate there was never any intent to hire them, like that's what makes this a little shaky. It makes it a little shady. It makes it a little uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, we're talking about all these issues at hand, and I'm not going to lie, I have no clue how to fix these issues. I will say, I do not believe that every NFL owner, I don't think that all owners gather once a year and have a meeting and say, guys, we need to do our absolute best to keep African Americans out of our head coaching jobs, right? Like, I don't think that that's what it is. I don't even think that, you can never count anybody out because, you think back to the Sterling situation in the NBA and others, very uncomfortable sound bites from him that really kind of shocked everyone to their core. I don't think owners literally look at a guy like Brian Flores and say, yeah, I'd love to hire him, but he's black, so I don't want him to have this job. I don't think it goes as deep as that. And I know this sounds a little weird, but it's like you almost wish that was the mindset of these owners because that's easier to detect. What's not easy to detect is people unknowingly making decisions that they don't think are wrong and that they don't think they're making the wrong decision. I don't think that these guys actually know that they are not picking an African-American head coach. They feel like they're making the best hire, but they're not giving their best opportunity. They're not giving the opportunities in a fair manner. It's not being done maliciously. I don't think that African-American head coaches don't have opportunities in the NFL out of malice or out of guys just saying, oh my gosh, I don't want that African-American to coach my team. And I'm not trying to sound insensitive to this, so I apologize if I am, but I don't know if it goes that far, but I think it's a bigger issue at hand because you can't pinpoint it. I don't know the direction of this Flores, as far as him, going at the NFL in this lawsuit. I don't know how far it can go. I don't know how you prove malice in these situations. I don't know how you can prove that, when they say racial discrimination. I mean, okay, the Giants, they hired, Sable or whatever his name is. I can't, the bottom line is Brian Sable from the Bills. Unless you could prove that they said we want him because he's white, I don't know how far this can go in the legal system. Like, that's what makes this difficult. That's why a little bit ago I said, I know it sounded weird, but it's like you almost wish that there was a situation where owners were just being blunt and saying, I don't want to hire you because of the color of your skin. Then it's easy to look at someone and say, you out. You're out of here. You can't own this team. But I don't think that it is maliciously being done across the board. There's going to be isolated situations where you might have that bad apple, and I hate that phrase, but that bad apple amongst the owners that's going to make everyone else look bad. I just really think it's a situation where I don't know how you prove intent to not want to hire you because of the color of your skin. A lot of the premise of the examples that were used in this lawsuit that was submitted is, the 49ers, they showed up late. Their front office members showed up late to the interview, and I think they were drinking. That's how you're going to form a class action lawsuit, is they were late to a meeting and that they looked like they were hungover. Again, I'm clearly not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I couldn't even imagine going to school for that. Holy smokes. As much as I love to argue, I don't have the brains to be able to stand up and fight battles in court for a living. I promise you that much. But and I'm sure there's enough evidence here and bullet points here to be able to bring this class action lawsuit to the table. However, I don't know, just based on those examples that have been used across all platforms and shows today, I look at all those and I'm like, I don't understand how that is actually going to be proven. That, well, if you were a white coach, Brian Flores, we would not have been late to your interview. I don't know how you prove that. I don't know how you prove that they were only late to your interview because of the color of your skin. I'm not downgrading the issues that he's trying to shed light on. A lot of these things we've known the issue, the underlying issue. I just think we've yet to be able to figure out how to fix it. The Rooney Rule was supposed to be a way to fix this, and if anything, it's made it worse. I think it's created more of a mess than anything. As far as the Giants situation, Bill Belichick texting Brian Flores thinking it was, the other coach, that got the job for the Giants. That right there, I heard First Take it earlier today. That right there is proof that, that they did not want to hire him for the color of his skin. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that. All that means is they wanted to give Brian Flores the interview, but they already knew who they were going to hire. And again, are they following the protocols? No. Does it mean that they have that it's racially based? I also don't think that's the case either. I mean, in our industry, the radio industry, at least, in my surroundings that I'm accustomed to, when I have to make hires here, there are people that I'm like, man, I would love to hire that person to do this job. However, I can't just call up somebody and say, do you want this job? It's yours. We have to post a job. We have to let the job sit on Indeed and some of these job websites to be able to allow, some of these applications to come in. And we have to give X amount of interviews, and we have to be able to document all of the entire interview process. Well, you know what? I'm also not stupid. What I have seen in other markets and what I have seen from other radio stations, I've seen numerous examples where we know we want that person to do this job. So we're going to tell that person under the table, hey, you have this job, but because of the protocols, we have to post it and we have to let it sit. I've seen it in other markets and other radio stations. It happens every damn day. And it's not maliciously done. It's not done to keep these people from being able to apply and be able to have a job here. However, because of that, because I've seen general managers, I've seen bosses who want to hire somebody for a position. They tell them it's theirs, but I've seen it where they go through the whole song and dance of, well, we got to post the job, then we got to bring people in to interview and make them feel like they have a chance to get it. And then after really thinking about it, we went ahead and decided that this guy or gal over here is the best person for the job. You knew that person was going to be your hire from the very beginning. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that happens in every industry. I am also not saying that race has nothing to do with this. I think there is always going to be an underlying race issue in isolated situations, but I don't think that one situation is always going to be all. Not, you know what I mean? Like, I could be wrong on this, but I'm just saying I don't think everything is always as racially motivated as what it's always made out to be. But that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't shed light on the issues and the optics. And the optics are 30 plus NFL jobs. Only one African American currently holds a head coaching job in the National Football League, and it's getting worse and worse. It seems like we were trending in the right direction. We were up to 7 head coaches 2 years ago of African American head coaches. It was down to, I believe, 5 last year and down to 1 heading into this year. But I think it becomes very tough. The other reason I find a hard time buying into how far this lawsuit can go. Again, the 49ers. The ownership and the front office, they were late to an interview with him, and he felt like they were out partying and drinking the night before. How do you prove racial what is the racial underlying issues in that situation? How do you know that if you were a white coach that they would not have still showed up? Is it professional? Hell no. But how do you prove that that's racially motivated? I'm not doing the whole, oh my gosh, stop making it about race. I'm not. But I want to know how throughout this process, how do you prove that? I don't know how you do that. The Giants hiring Dable. I keep forgetting his name. Why do I keep forgetting his name? I literally talk about him every single day and keep spacing on his name. That's on me. My apologies. But if the Giants wanted that guy, why is that wrong that they wanted that guy? If you look at the direction of the NFL right now, and it sounds like I'm saying, well, look, it's all the white coaches that are having success. There's going to be more examples of white coaches having success because white people have all the damn jobs. So I'm not saying that, well, you have to hire a white coach to be successful. No, all I'm saying is it's the offensive-minded coaches at this point. But Eric Bieniemy's an offensive-minded head coach. Byron Leftwich is an offensive-minded head coach. Okay, so I'm not sitting there saying that they have to be white and offensive-minded to get a head coaching job, but I do believe that this wasn't about race as far as the Giants situation is concerned. This was the offensive coordinator. This was the offensive brainchild behind the Buffalo Bills offensive attack that was headlined by Josh Allen. And that always happens. But that, and who's to say that Dable is credible in this situation? I mean, right now he's riding the coattails of Josh Allen and the success of the offense. Is the success of the offense based on the guy calling the plays, or is it just the fact that they have a freaking quarterback? An example, Bengals fans, Zach Taylor was 6-25 heading into this season. I was critical of Zach Taylor because I kept saying, hey, at the end of the day, if you're going to lose football games, it better be because you have defensive issues and not offensive issues. Zach Taylor was hired because he was an offensive-minded assistant under the offensive genius that is, McVay, of Sean McVay. So if you're going to bring in Zach Taylor better bring some offensive principles to the table that is going to allow you to put you in the best position. Well, so was Zach Taylor horrible the first 3 years or 2 years he was with the Bengals, 6-25? And then all of a sudden he just learned how to coach football this year? No, it's because he has a quarterback. Like, Dable's going to go to the Giants and not have as much success as what the offense was having in Buffalo. Not because he doesn't know how to coach, it's because he doesn't have a quarterback. Zach Taylor has probably known how to coach like this since he got in Cincinnati. What did he not have when he got to Cincinnati? Joe Burrow. But that's the point that everyone's trying to make is, well, a lot of coaches don't look good when they get these teams because they're usually taking over a situation that a coach has been fired. Coaches usually are the majority of the reason coaches get fired is because they lose. And when you lose, it's because you don't have a good roster. You usually don't have a good quarterback. So that means that any new coach is taking over a crappy situation. The Giants is a crappy situation right now because your quarterback is Daniel Jones. That's why he will not look as good in New York. It's not like all of a sudden Daniel Jones will turn into this MVP caliber quarterback because Dable gets there and saves it. No. So, like I said, there are a lot of, the base for this lawsuit is well deserving. And I'm glad that he is going at the NFL to shed light on this. My big concern is I don't know how much tangible evidence there is to be able to pursue it. It's a class action lawsuit. You're going to have to get a lot of people on board. Well, a lot of people, we saw how many people were supportive of Colin Kaepernick during that time, but they didn't want to be supportive of Colin Kaepernick as far as, standing side by side or kneeling side by side with him. They were supportive from afar, put out a social media post. Hey, I stand or I kneel with Colin Kaepernick, but they weren't standing or kneeling there with Colin Kaepernick, right? You're talking about a class action lawsuit. Is he going to be able to get 40 plus people to sign on to this class action lawsuit? I saw Hugh Jackson came out today and insinuated that a lot of the stuff that has been brought to the table by Brian Flores has also what he experienced in Cleveland. There's probably something there. There's probably something on every team white or black coaches involved in these situations that could be brought and shed light on as well. But can he get 40 plus people to sign on to this class action lawsuit? I don't know. What was the other team? It was the Giants. It was San Francisco. I have to be missing another one. Why am I missing another one? Either way, at the end of the day, it's a very strange situation. Will he ever coach in the NFL again? That's going to be the big question. I think that he should. It's going to be kind of tough right now, of course, because you're not just suing. You're suing the league. You're suing the NFL. And the NFL is going to come out and say, hey, what are you suing us for? We have the Rooney Rule in place. I think who you're mad at is the owners. I think you should be mad at the owners. Watch the league deflect this and turn it back on the owners. And then that opens up a whole other can of worms of how do you prove that those owners are not hiring you because of the color of your skin? That's why we continue to have this conversation every decade, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better because it's hard to prove. And I'm not defending ownership, by the way. I hope I've rambled for, going on 15 minutes now. I hope that I have not come across as defending these owners for not hiring African-American head coaches. All I'm saying is I love the fact that Brian Flores is going at the league, but I do question if there's going to be enough tangible evidence to be able to support these claims. You cannot say that the Niners front office showed up late and appeared to be hungover, and they only did that because of the color of your skin. I don't know I don't know how you prove that. I don't know how you prove that if you were a white coach showing up for the interview that Lynch and all those guys would show up and just be suited up and on time and buttoned up and not hungover. And I don't know. I don't know. And I could be ignorant to some of these things that I'm not aware of all the details, but everything that I've read up on today and heard throughout the day, him going on his media tour, I'm with him every step of the way. I agree with everything he's saying. There's a lot of issues in the NFL, and I don't think it's an NFL issue. I think it's every professional industry out there. But at the end of the day, this is going to be very interesting to see how far this can go. I am not making light of the situation at hand, as far as African-American head coaches are concerned. It's just this has dominated the football headlines and the build to the Super Bowl. And I know that sounds insensitive of me of saying, oh, well, the Super Bowl matters more than African-Americans fighting for an opportunity to be head coaches. I get how it can come across that way. So if that came across that way, my apologies, but I do understand how people can take some things out of context. So I hope that's not the case here. But I'm going to figure out what to do. Kev Nash is doing the show from home today with the storm coming and all the issues that we've had throughout the day with the power outage here at the station. We're trying something different today. We'll try to get some of that situated. But 518-1410, we'll open up the phone lines. Love to have a discussion, not an argument. Not a I'm wrong, you're wrong thing. I'm just curious how all of this works because I think this is a very difficult thing for Brian Flores to be able to prove. Can you highlight, is it bad of the Giants that they already knew who they were going to hire before he even had his interview? I think that's more of a result of a dumb Rooney Rule than anything. The Rooney Rule is not, I'm not a fan of the Rooney Rule. Not the concept of it, but what it is right now. The Rooney Rule right now is not good. It's not being the intent. There's no intent with it. It's not being used properly, and because it's not being used properly, it's been turned. It's just basically another box that has to be checked off during the hiring and interview process. That's why I'm saying it's not a good rule. But the concept of it had better intent than what it actually has come across. But 518-1410. I'm Justin Kinner hanging out with you here today on a Wednesday. Everyone out there be safe and preparing for this winter storm that is coming, of course. People who are saying, oh, well, they always tell us all this snow and ice is going to come and then it'll just be rain and then they're wrong again. I hope they're wrong. There are times where I hope people are wrong. And I always love when they predict 6 to 8 inches of snow and we get 1 or 2. That's a good thing. But either way, be prepared nonetheless. 518-1410, more of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash next.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The soothing scent of Vicks Vapor Rub. It's only one of the most iconic smells ever. That cooling, comforting scent generations of families have come to trust to help them feel better. And now you trust to soothe your family. Pick up some Vicks Vapor Rub in the little blue jar and wrap yourself with the calm only Vicks Vapor Rub can bring. Vicks Vapor Rub. always there for you.
It's football season again, which means it's football season again. And here at Frank's Red Hot, we put together a completely exhaustive list of essentials that will bring everyone together on game day. Essential number 1, Frank's Red Hot. I mean, come on, people, that was a given. Number 2, wings. Like, just so many wings. Okay, it looks like that's it. There's not even a third thing on the page. Do I just say the first 2 essentials again, or is that weird? Nope, just Frank's and wings? Okay, that's okay. Yeah. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Don't miss the Hot Tub and Swim Spa Blowout Expo this weekend at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. Browse the largest display of hot tubs and swim spas in the region from 5 major brands. Head up to 50% off. That's this weekend at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds in Dayton. Visit HotTubOH.com or call 800-SPA-SALE.
Sick of waiting for your furniture to arrive? Menards has the furniture you need in stock. Plus, you get a free rug. That's right. Buy any upholstered living room furniture at $299 or more and get a free 5x7 area rug. That's $149.99 in savings. Need a new chair? How about a sectional, a new recliner, or love seat? Buy one today, get a free rug. Hurry up. Get to Menards before they're gone. In-store only while supplies last.
Save big money at Menards. Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Ready for an oil change? We can help get the right protection at the right price. Right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline Daily Protection or Valvoline Max Life High Mileage Motor Oil with an STP oil filter for just $28.99. Visit one of our 6,000 stores or order from AutoZone.com for same-day store pickup or next-day delivery.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Ready for a chicken sandwich that's a kick above the rest? Then Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has just what you're looking for with the spicy chicken sandwich combo at a great price. The kick you crave is here with a premium all-white meat chicken breast that's spicy marinated and hand-breaded with a kick. Served with creamy chipotle ranch all on a brioche bun, it's the chicken sandwich others aspire to be. Get the chicken sandwich perfected with the spicy chicken sandwich combo at a great price. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You can kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says I'm a catch more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
If I'm going to work from my home office, I need my home office to work for me.
It's possible.
at Staples. To be most productive, my home office needs to have everything my office has.
Also possible because your local Staples store has the tools your business needs to get work done from home. And right now, you can save up to 40% on select chairs to put the finishing touch on your home office. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 2/26. In-store only while supplies last.
Tired of being tracked online? DuckDuckGo can help. They help millions of people like you take control of their personal information online. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
He's a former Buckeyes great and now a college football Hall of Famer. And don't forget about his 13 years of NFL experience playing for the Eagles, Dolphins, Jets, and the New England Patriots. He's Dayton's own Keith Byers. Hang out with him every Monday at noon on the Keith Byers Show, presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken.
Sure, we have 30 seconds to tell you that drivers who switch to Progressive could save big. But then what? Well, we could try to fill the remaining time with awkward pauses. It's often done for comedic effect. Is it working? I can't tell if this is funny. Maybe this is so bad it's funny. Wow, we really peaked at the save big when you switched to Progressive part. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with experienced branch staff at over 250 locations, so you get the product you're looking for. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
CSX, a growing Fortune 500 logistics company, has immediate openings for freight train conductors. If you're looking for a rewarding career offering paid training at nearly $25 per hour, competitive benefits, and you share a passion for great service, apply today at csx.com/careers. That's csx.com/careers. CSX, committed to supporting military and veteran families and their communities. CSX is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey guys, if you love football, Sunday, February 13th is a big day. And if you'd like to score points of your own, Monday, February 14th is even bigger. Order our Midnight Romance Special and have it delivered on Thursday or Friday of that week. It includes roses, Esther Price candy, and a bottle of wine. Order at firsttheflorist.com. That's F-U-R-S-T, theflorist.com. First Florist and Greenhouses, Dayton's largest family-owned florist and greenhouses at 1306 Troy Street since 1905. Order our Midnight Romance Special now.
Veterans, were you exposed to harmful burn pit smoke serving overseas? The Department of Veterans Affairs has recognized and is providing benefits to veterans who suffer with asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis as a result of burn pit exposure. If you served in the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations or Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Syria, or Djibouti and suffer from any respiratory illnesses that you believe is a result of exposure to burn pits, contact the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
All right, we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash with you here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. We're trying this again. Kev working from home today. Kev, let's see if we fixed it. Did we fix it? It does not look like we fixed it. We gave it the old college try. We gave it the old college.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but there's that delay. That major delay is coming through pretty hot.
Yikes.
So, Kev, we'll do this again next week or later this week.
It is definitely a big delay.
Yeah. All right. We'll do this again later this week. Not you guys, though. You're stuck with me, unfortunately. Kev, thank you. So earlier this afternoon, we had a big power outage here in Kettering. And it wiped out like everything. We couldn't get in the building. People that were in couldn't get out of the building. It was just a ginormous mess. All 5 of our stations popped off for like a few moments till we got everything underway. A giant mess. We got it cleaned up. And now the biggest mess that you guys are stuck with is you have to deal with me for the next 2 hours and 20 minutes as we look to kind of to sort this out. But 518-1410. Let's go to the phones. We got Robert. Robert, how are you, sir? Robert, call back and we'll get you back as far as that's concerned. But yes, so the other issue at hand, if you will, is, of course, the fact that there was the talks of the Dolphins owner going to Flores and basically incentivizing him, willing to pay $100,000 for every loss that Flores and the Dolphins would pick up for the rest of for that season. Now, remember, the reason that I do believe some of this has gotten kind of picked back up is the fact that when you look big picture at everything that's going on, Joe Burrow is in the Super Bowl. And the Dolphins over the weekend, an article was released about how, and it was strange to me, that they were trying to make it sound like breaking news, that like a reporter had just found out that the Dolphins were willing to unload. They had 3 first-round picks that year that the Bengals drafted Burrow. And the Dolphins were trying to unload 3 first-round picks to be able to acquire that number 1 overall pick for the Bengals to be able, or for the Dolphins to be able to get Joe Burrow. Now, when that article was released, I was like, and I think it was like a Sports Illustrated article. I said, well, that's not that big of breaking news. We knew that at the time. In fact, we had some reporters on from the Dolphins at that time in early 2020 before the draft regarding that exact situation. We knew that the Dolphins were heavily trying to trade draft picks to be able to acquire Joe Burrow. So what I think the issue at hand now is the fact that they weren't able to acquire him. They were still trying to tank and be able to be put in a position to get better draft picks. And then now you look at the fact that because, when you look at the fact that Flores was continuing to win ball games against the owner's wishes, they wanted to tank to get that number 1 overall pick to be able to acquire Joe Burrow. And I think what has led to the blow between Flores and the Dolphins is that not only did Flores not agree to lose games, even at $100,000 per loss, he continued to win. Won 10 games last year, won 9 games this year. He won. He was winning despite an owner trying to do everything he could to make them lose. Who goes to their head coach and incentivizes them to lose? Mike Brown, I've made a lot of jokes about Mike Brown, but I don't even think Mike Brown would ever be as dumb as the Dolphins owner to go to, whether it was Marvin Lewis or obviously Zach Taylor, to say, hey, listen, we need to lose. Like the Bengals lost because of a lot of injuries that year. They were in position to get Joe Burrow because a lot of injuries happened and the team just had started to fall apart. It was a new regime. Of course, Zach Taylor comes in. These guys were used to the voice of Marvin Lewis for years and years and years. And now Zach Taylor, who doesn't necessarily own the room in his very first season, 2 seasons with the Bengals, is now trying to implement his new system and to implement his, vibe of the team. And that led to why you saw guys like Geno Atkins leave and Carlos Dunlap leave. I mean, you saw Jeremy Hill and a lot of those guys that were a part of that Marvin Lewis run, they left and they pushed him out. Carlos Dunlap, but I was critical of them moving on from him. And obviously it wasn't because they didn't think that he was talented enough. It's because of the attitude and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So Zach Taylor experienced a little losing along the way. And that's how they were in that position to be able to get Joe Burrow, obviously, in last season. But that's not really what this is about. What this is about is that season, the Dolphins the owner wanted to lose, wanted Brian Flores to tank games, to lose games purposely so that they would be in position to get Joe Burrow. Well, now guess what? Joe Burrow is in the Super Bowl. And now if you don't think that just irritates the Dolphins owner even more, he's probably going to Brian Flores saying, see, I told you. You should have listened to me. You should have lost the games I told you to lose. You should have accepted the $100,000 bonuses per loss that I was going to give you. Because now look, now we have Tua, who's average at best. Now we're going to hover around 8 to 9 to 10 wins every season and not be Super Bowl contenders. We're just going to be good quality team. But we would be a Super Bowl contender if we had a Joe Burrow. That's the mindset of the owner. And I think that's what has led to a lot of the fallout between the owner of the Dolphins and Brian Flores on the way out. I'm sure a lot of it was he blames Brian Flores for why they, were not in the playoffs, for why they are not in a position to win a lot more football games, because they have Tua and they could have had Joe Burrow. And we've seen the impact that Joe Burrow has had on Cincinnati. In fact, when Joe Burrow got to Cincinnati, they were in way worse shape than what the Dolphins were. So imagine if the Dolphins would have been able to acquire Joe Burrow How good would they be? They would probably be the AFC team in the Super Bowl this year. Now, again, maybe not, but you see what I'm saying. That's what the owner of the Dolphins is thinking. My thing that I have a huge problem with is this. Is tanking new? Is the concept of losing to acquire more talent new? No. I was watching Get Up today. I was watching First Take today. I wanted to puke at the acting job that Dominique Foxworth and Marcus Spears and all these former athletes were trying to pull on that show, where they were just shocked to their core that an owner would ask their coach to lose games so that they could be in a better position to draft. What? You're surprised by this? Literally on that same show, Get Up. And I love that. I mean, I watch Get Up every morning. I watch First Take every morning. It's always on in my office in the background throughout the day. I vividly remember the phrase, like the catchphrases at the bottom, like on the headliners at the bottom. It said tank for Tua. Tank for Tua. Nobody was outraged about the tank for Tua hashtag slogan 2 years ago. Nobody. This was before Tua got hurt, of course, at Alabama. This was before, this is back when everyone was talking about how dominant and great Tua was, and that, basically the job that Joe Burrow has done, that's what everyone thought that Tua was going to be and do when he got into the league. Of course, the injuries and everything, and he didn't really do well in the combine and throughout the draft process and all that fun stuff. But if you remember, it was hashtag tank for Tua. And what I'm having a hard time with is these athletes being shaken to their core. I worked too hard. I practiced so hard as a kid, and I put in too many hours in college, and I bust my behind in the pros. The fact that an owner would actually consider losing to improve draft stock is just, I'm flabbergasted. Shut up. Are you kidding? We literally talk about tanking all the time. The Philadelphia 76ers put a cute little little catchphrase with it, trust the process. You want to know what the trust the process was for the Sixers? We're going to get rid of every talented player. We're going to sign as many bad players as we can. We're going to lose as many games as we can so that we can acquire as many good young players as we can. That happens in sports constantly. That is what everybody does. What do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars did when they were they got rid of Ngakoue, they got rid of Jalen Ramsey, they got rid of Leonard Fournette, they got rid of every big name and big contract possible. Why? Was it to win? Oh, no, it was let's salary dump. That's the other phrase that they use to try to hide it. No, salary dump. For one, if you're salary dumping, it means you're getting rid of big name players who are good enough to acquire that kind of money, okay? So you can call it a salary dump all you want, but it's tanking. The Cincinnati Reds, they try to put a cute little bow on what their rebuild is about to be just a few months ago when the front office of the Reds came out and said, we are trying to align our money with our resources. That's why they let Castellanos go. That's why they didn't even try to keep Trevor Bauer the year before. They let Tucker Barnhart go. Tucker Barnhart's not Trevor Bauer, and he's definitely not Nick Castellanos, but you see what I'm saying. They let more players go than what they did effort-wise trying to get players to come in. You could tell the fans in the media that we're trying to align our money with our resources all you want, but what you're doing is you're tanking. If you're letting good players go and you're not adding any good players, you are not trying to put your team in position to win ball games. How is that not the same thing? I think what we're upset about is that now we know the dirty secrets as to behind how some of these owners put forth the tanking process. Because I've always been fascinated by the concept of tanking, because I believe that professional athletes are the most uber competitive people you will ever meet in your life. You can't become a professional athlete if you only have 20% competitive rate in you. You're not going to become a pro athlete. I don't care how tall, big, or strong or fast you are. If you are a pro athlete, if you're a D1 college athlete, most athletes in general, the good ones, they're good because they're competitive, because they hate to lose. They hate to come in second. They hate that there's someone better than them. They hate that the opponent is better than them, so they want to do everything they can. So I've always been fascinated by tanking, of how you get away with it. What we're uncomfortable with now is that we finally figured it out, is that owners potentially, maybe this is an isolated situation, but I doubt it, that owners try to financially incentivize losing for some of these coaches. Apparently, Hugh Jackson has kind of hinted at the fact that the Haslams, during his time in Cleveland, had tried to financially benefit him or incentivize the losing that happened in Cleveland. Now, if Hugh Jackson is anything, he's one hell of a loser. He knows how to lose. I mean, 1-30, whatever the hell, 1-31, one win in 2 years. I mean, I figure you have to try to go 1-31, and I think that they did try to go 1-31. But you want to know why I don't put it all on the coach? For one, Hugh Jackson, you're a bum if you actually did accept money to throw ball games. But I don't think that's the case. I'll defend Hugh Jackson coming up here in a moment, even though I think he's kind of snaky when it comes to the media drop that he did today. The Haslams were tanking when you started Deshaun Kaiser, when you provided your team Deshaun Kaiser to be your starting quarterback, a second-round pick. Tanking. You don't draft a quarterback in the second round to be your starting quarterback the next season. That's what the Browns did. Tanking. That's exactly what that's how you build a team, is through the draft. How you get good draft picks is by losing. The only way you could do that is by making sure that you don't have good players on your team, because you can't just go out and tell your coach, hey, make sure you don't win the ball game today, although it sounds like the Dolphins owner tried to. But yeah, I found it fascinating today that these athletes were just shocked to their core that the Dolphins would tank. That tanking, there's no room for tanking in sports. I agree with you. I think it's egregious to actually try and lose to get better players out of the draft. I think that's just a loser mindset. Your professional sports, losing to benefit anyone's situation should not even be a concept. Tanking doesn't happen. Can you explain to me how tanking in high school benefits anybody? Doesn't. In high school, it's all about winning. That's all the teams want to do, is win. The teams that are losing, they're not trying to lose. What does high school teams who are bad get? What do they get for losing? They get made fun of. And that's not cool. That's not fun. They don't get the attention of the media. They don't get the press clippings in the newspaper, or at least online on social media. They don't get that anymore. No, the good teams do. Everyone's fighting to win. College. What's the benefit of tanking in college? There is none. It's all about winning. You win ball games. I mean, in fact, winning is so relied upon in college that's why there's so much cheating going on in college, because if you don't cheat, you don't win. If you don't win, you don't keep your job. And then you have the NFL trying to lose games purposely. How is that? How is it professional sports is the first level of sports that you get to where losing becomes a philosophy, where it becomes a method of improving your team? That's the strangest thing to me. It's weird, and I will never get behind it. And until the league stops incentivizing losing, until they stop rewarding the bad teams, it's never going to change. Every year the Jets are in the top 10 in the NFL draft. Every year the Giants seem to be there. Every year the Jaguars seem to be there. Every year the Browns seem to be there. For the longest time, the Bengals were living in the top 10 over the last couple of seasons. Now, here's where I will compliment the Bengals. The Bengals took advantage of those couple of years that they were drafting in the top 10. The Bengals took advantage of that. They were able to get some big key pieces. All right. Jonah Williams, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I'm hoping eventually it pans out, but they got Jonah Williams a few years ago. Okay. They obviously got T. Higgins. They obviously got Jamar Chase. They obviously got Joe Burrow. More than a few years ago, they were able to get Joe Mixon. Their entire offensive core has stemmed from the draft. In fact, I think that they've been the most impressive team in the draft over the last 5 years. And I don't throw out compliments to that organization very often. But, for everyone out there that says, well, the draft system, the way it's set up now, the Bengals are proof of why it works. The Bengals are the only proof of why it works. How many top 10 draft picks do the Jets need to get before they finally figure it out? How many top 10 draft picks do the Giants need to get? How many top 10 draft picks did it take the Cleveland Browns to finally figure it out? Continuing to reward the same 10 bad teams every year with the best talent coming out of college, that's a problem. You have to stop doing it. And there's no signs of it's not going to change anytime soon. But I'm so sick of the best players in college having to be rewarded by going to the worst situations in the National Football League. The National Football League, it's hard to win on good teams. Joe Burrow's in the Super Bowl this year. He's had to work his ass off to do it because he doesn't have an offensive line, because there's a deficiency on that team that has made his life hell all year, but he's been able to put that deficiency aside and still rise above all of the chaos around him. It shouldn't be that hard, but it is, because you're going to teams who are in bad situations. The Bengals they've been the most impressive out of the draft over the last 5-6 years. I mean, when they draft guys in the first round, outside of offensive linemen, of course, they're kicking ass. Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. I mean, good for them. Good for them for drafting the core of this Super Bowl team right now. Will it lead to a Super Bowl win this year? Hopefully. But good for the Bengals. But they are the exception to this point. And the point is, the same teams in the top 10 every year, what are they doing with these? What are they doing with the talent? The Bengals are proving that this is what you should do. If you're going to spend a couple drafts in the top 10, you better get some talent that's going to dig you out of misery very soon. The Bengals have been the only one to proven to do that. Who else? All right, the Rams, they didn't improve their team through the draft. They technically improved through the draft picks that they used to acquire the talent. But the Jets, the Jaguars, the Giants, I mean, the list goes on and on. It's constant, and it gets old. And until the NFL changes, stop rewarding the bad teams with the best players out of college. Because not only are they not figuring it out still, how many stars have you jeopardized? How many star players have we just not heard of because they never got a good opportunity to have a good foundation to come into the league? I don't know. It's a mess. 518-1410. Let's get these calls situated on the other side. But 518-1410. It's just me the rest of the way. We had some tech issues on the other side with Kev Nash. Hopefully we get those ironed out by later on this week. Excited to be hanging out with you here on a Wednesday. Still a lot to get into. We'll still dive into some more Super Bowl talk. The Brian Flores situation is going to be a talking point from now and probably well into next football season, maybe for a while. What Brian Flores is trying to implement as far as change is concerned, this is not something that will happen overnight. It's not change that will happen overnight. Right or wrong, it just won't. And I don't think that this is going to go away anytime soon. And I think that's the point, to continue to shed light on the situation in the National Football League and really across all sports, but more so the NFL than anything, is the situation at hand. But 518-1410, it's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by, of course, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty and Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. More of the Justin Kinner Show next.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Tired of being tracked online? DuckDuckGo can help. With one download, you can search and browse privately, avoiding trackers, all for free. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. I'm a speed bump. Did you hear what I said? I'm a speed bump. And if you have cut-rate car insurance, the cost to reattach your muffler could really be a bump in the road. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
This is your Wendy's wake-up call. Start your day with a better breakfast and get a free drink with any of our morning-making breakfast sandwiches. That's your favorite drink in a Wendy's cup, free. Fresh brewed coffee, free. Diet Coke, free. Vanilla Frosty Chino, that's cold brew plus Frosty Creamer plus free. So don't sleep on this deal. Get any size drink in a Wendy's cup free when you buy any breakfast sandwich. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's.
Limited time only at participating Wendy's. On the card only. Offer valid upon request on lowest price qualifying item. Not valid for third-party delivery.
The Big Hoopla is celebrating their 10th anniversary this year and will hit a milestone 100,000 tickets donated to airmen, their families, and students when combined with Hometown Heroes events in those 10 years. This furthers our region's commitment to supporting our military during the 75th anniversary year of the Air Force. The 2022 NCAA First Four Men's Basketball Tournament, Tuesday, March 15 and Wednesday, March 16 at UD Arena. Get your tickets and donate to be a part of our mission at DaytonHoopla.com.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. WING 1410 Dayton, Dayton's ESPN Radio.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be cloudy with rain, a high near 44. Tonight's going to be cloudy with rain, a wintry mix, and snow, a low around 25. And tomorrow's going to be cloudy with snow and a wintry mix, a high near 28. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Give your home a fresh look with the beauty and durability of wall and floor tile from Mohawk. Clean Protect porcelain tile is waterproof and scratch and stain resistant to stand up to life's messes. The Microban technology offers over a 99% antimicrobial product protection, fighting against stain and odor-causing bacteria for the life of the tile. Perfect for any room of your home. Save big money on Mohawk Clean Protect tile exclusively at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
We just got a $40,000 bill for your surgery.
What? The insurance company said it would be covered. What happened?
Unfortunately, this surprise medical bill scenario is far too common. Thanks to recently passed legislation, Ohioans will no longer receive surprise medical bills for emergency care or unexpected out-of-network care. If you believe that you've received a medical bill in error, contact the Ohio Department of Insurance at 1-800-686-1526 or insurance.ohio.gov.
Water stains on the shower glass. Try rubbing some shaving cream on.
Tyler's cleaning crew knows every housekeeping trick in the book.
Handling timesheets now.
But they need a proper bookkeeper to keep finances tidy.
New equipment is a business expense, right?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Emmitt Smith, Pro Football Hall of Famer and three-time champion.
Pro Football's all-time leading rusher Emmitt Smith talks about joint pain.
Trust me, I know about joint pain. Sure, I made it look easy, but if my body could speak, it would say, I'm in pain.
Are you living with chronic joint pain? Knees, hips, lower back, shoulders? Don't just assume the old treatments are the only treatments.
I've gone under the knife to get rid of pain, but now there are options, and you need to check them out.
Emmett's talking about QC Kinetics, exciting new natural biologic therapies that can repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints. New options now available here.
You can encourage your body to actually heal itself with the help of QC Kinetics.
Real relief with no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics for regenerative restorative treatments with lasting relief.
But now, you and I, we have help. QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 937-936-0325. That's 937-936-0325. QC Kinetics, 936-0325.
Looking for a way to kick your family's meal up a notch? Then Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has you covered with the 8-piece spicy box at a great price. Experience spicy perfection with 8 pieces of fresh, never frozen classic chicken that's freshly marinated and hand-breaded with a kick. Then it's cooked fresh, just right to seal in that famous flavor. This is the best chicken made bold. Satisfy your spicy cravings with the 8-piece spicy box at a great price. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
It's totally normal to be constipated with belly pain, straining, and bloating again and again.
No way.
You could have a chronic condition called irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C. Linzess, or linaclotide, is a prescription that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess works differently than laxatives to help relieve belly pain and let you have more frequent and complete bowel movements. Individual results may vary. Do not give to children less than 6, and it should not be given to children 6 to less than 18. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor today. You may be able to save on Linzess and make fewer trips to the pharmacy. See if you're eligible to pay as little as $30 for 90 days. Visit linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS. Sponsored by AbbVie and Ironwood Pharmaceuticals.
All sports, all the time. This is 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, we are back.
Give me fire, give me that which I desire.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash live here on Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM. I'm Justin Kinner coming at you live here this afternoon. There's just solo today. Kev Nash at home, of course, with all the tech issues we've had at the station today and with the big storm coming, everyone just kind of heading home and bracing for impact, if you will. But Kev will be back with us later on this week. So, big talk, of course, in the National Football League when it comes to, of course, Brian Flores and the class action lawsuit that he's going after the NFL with. And yes, it's bringing a lot of awareness to, of course, a lot of the deficiencies within the hiring process when it comes to head coaches for all minorities. When it comes to only one African-American head coach in the National Football League right now, and Mike Tomlin. My only concerns about the class action lawsuit is, and again, I don't have a legal background, so maybe I'm missing some obvious talking points here. But a lot of his talking points aren't bad at all as far as the examples that he uses. But I guess the issues that I have with some of the examples that he has brought forth to the table are, how can you sit there and prove that race was the motivating factor and why he did not get these jobs? I'm not defending the owners. I'm not saying it's okay that there's only one African-American head coach in the National Football League. But I think that what really makes the situation very difficult to attack the NFL for is, unless there's physical proof that there are owners saying, I do not want an African-American leading my team, it is very hard to be able to point out where race is the issue here outside of just what the data shows. And the data shows there's only one head coach in the National Football League as we sit here right now that's African-American. So I definitely understand the optics and the issues of how and making an effort to try and fix those. But earlier I said the 49ers. I was incorrect. I apologize on that. It was the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos had an interview with Brian Flores years ago, and Brian Flores shows up to the interview on time. The front office of the Denver Broncos was over an hour late. When they showed up to the interview, it was just kind of like, it wasn't very formal. It was just kind of very loose, and it appeared that they were kind of groggy and exhausted from the night before, appeared that they were hungover. Well, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV. I watch a lot of legal shows. So I think I'm a lawyer. No, I'm joking. But I don't know how that holds up if you're going to go to court and say, well, I think that they were hungover at my interview that they were an hour late for. My first question would be, first of all, yes, that's very unprofessional. But how does that relate to race in this situation? I'm not here to stir the pot or to have an uncomfortable conversation about this at all. But these are the things that kind of go through my head. And I did at least hear Stephen A. Smith and some others say, well, how do you prove that it was race related? Outside of the race of the coach that's being impacted by these bullet points and examples that he was listing, how do you prove that they were late and hungover at this interview because he was African-American? I don't know how you do that. And maybe I'm missing something here. And again, not trying to come across as insensitive to this, but I'm just asking. I don't know. The other example was the New York Giants, of course. And you look at the fact that, Bill Belichick and Brian Daboll, that Bill Belichick had texted Brian Flores thinking that it was Brian Daboll. Texted Brian, congratulations on getting the Giants job. He hears that he's the guy, that they're locked in on him, and congratulations. And then Flores was like, well, that's strange. I haven't even interviewed with them yet. Bill Belichick and him, then it's revealed in these text messages that, of course, he texted the wrong Brian. Yes, Bill Belichick, who makes zero mistakes, who's so methodical in everything that he does in life, somehow texted the wrong Brian. We'll get to that later. But what this brings up and what a lot of people are saying is this is physical proof that the Giants, literally disrespected Brian Flores by knowing that they already have their guy, knowing that they're going to hire Brian Daboll. They already have, but at this time of the text message, Brian Flores had not been interviewed by the Giants yet. Daboll had not been announced as the head coach yet, but somehow Bill Belichick was already made aware that Daboll was going to be the guy for the Giants. Flores finds out that way days before his interview, and now he's upset. But what I don't understand, and that's wrong. I get that. But how is that race related outside of the fact that there is an African-American involved in the situation? How do you look at the NFL? How do you go to file a class action lawsuit and say, well, he did that to me because I'm African-American? Again, I don't understand how that could be the base of everything right now, of how you could prove that was the case. I believe that there's always going to be some owners that make everyone else look bad, that do make decisions solely on that, and they should be obviously taken out of the league. How do you prove that, though? That's the hard part. And I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it's okay. But these examples that he continues to list, I can't look at that and say, oh, yeah, that was definitely because of the color of your skin. I don't know. I don't want to be ignorant to it either and act like that never plays a role in it. But I also have a hard time believing that the owners all come together and say, guys, we got to do everything we can to keep African Americans from leading our football teams. I'm not trying to sound insensitive there, but I don't know if that's the case. The scary part about this is I think that the numbers are clearly showing that, yes, there is lack of minority representation within head coaches in the league, and that is something that needs to be addressed, which is what the purpose of the Rooney Rule was. For those joining me in Hour 2, yes, I did talk a lot about this in Hour 1, getting a lot of questions about my thoughts on this. I wanted to make sure I dove into this before I get to the phone calls. And the Rooney Rule was supposed to fix a lot of this. The Rooney Rule was supposed to be an opportunity to put more minorities in these interview situations, because apparently the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin was not their guy. He became their guy because he knocked his interview out of the park. And that's when they're like, man, we already had an idea of where we wanted to go. But Mike Tomlin, that was one hell of an interview, and he blew everyone out of the water, and he ended up getting the job. Well, the problem is Mike Tomlin's been with the Steelers for how long? And that's the only time that the purpose of the Rooney Rule, the purpose of it was for situations like that. There's only one example of that being the case. The problem with the Rooney Rule now is it has become you have to do it. You have to interview minority coaches. Now I think you have to interview 2 minority coaches every time there's a head coaching vacancy. But the example I used in the first hour, I know in my industry, not necessarily here in this building, but I know in my industry and the program directors that I know and the GMs that I know, that, if there's a job that opens up in radio or media or most places in general, the job has to be posted legally. It has to be posted. It has to be posted. You have to actually do quite a few interviews. You have to go through the entire hiring process, leaving the job posted on a LinkedIn or an Indeed or, those job aggregators like that. Then you got to show proof and documentation of how many interviews you did. And you know what a lot of businesses do? They go through that formality. They bring in candidates. They sit down. Tell me where you see yourself in 5 years. All that. It's a waste of time, because most GMs, most owners of any business, they know who they want for their candidate, for their job vacancy. They know who they want to fill a certain position with, but they have to go through the formalities, and it's a waste of time. You'll get people coming in for interviews that they're thinking, man, I have a chance to get this job, all while not knowing that the person that they want for the job, they've known since the job, before the job even became open, and that you are sitting there as basically you're there as a box to check off. And that's the Rooney Rule when it comes to the National Football League and interviewing minorities for these jobs. It's unfortunate. I was pissed off about Marvin Lewis and the Dallas Cowboys when they when they went and got their guy 2 years ago, when they brought in Mike McCarthy. They said that breaking news, the Dallas Cowboys are interviewing Marvin Lewis for the head coaching vacancy. I said, there's no way in hell they're hiring Marvin Lewis, because there was no talk of him ever being a legitimate candidate. Not that and by the way, I actually like the idea of hiring Marvin Lewis over Mike McCarthy as a Dallas Cowboy fan. So when it comes to that, I would have been thrilled with that. That wasn't the case. That's what was unfortunate about the entire situation is that Marvin Lewis was just brought in and it was made public so that they could tell everyone, see, we're interviewing minorities. We're checking that box. And it's insensitive, and it makes African-American head coaching, candidates, it makes them feel worse about themselves. Like, okay, am I actually here to be interviewed for this job, or am I just here as, a box to check off? Am I just here as a formality? Like that's the big problem with it all. And that's the huge issue with the Rooney Rule, that I think that the intent was it was supposed to do something good. And I think it's created a lot of issues with the optics of how it's all kind of going about. At the end of the day, the NFL does need to address these issues. It does need to be fixed. But I'm also here to tell you that I know I love giving hot takes. I don't have a hot take on this. I don't know how you fix it. Do you fix it? Do you blow it? You get rid of every owner and start over? Do you put a cap on how many white head coaches you hire and how many minority head coaches there are in the league? I mean, I'm not mocking this, but I'm genuinely curious. I want to hear from people about how do you fix this? Because unless you can prove that teams are only hiring white coaches because they're white and because they don't want African Americans to lead their team, unless you could prove that, I don't know how to fix this. And not that it's my job to, but I don't know how this problem gets fixed. It's easy to point out the issues, but solutions, not problems. We've known what the problem is in the NFL and really professional sports in general. Look at the NBA head coaching, minorities. You look at Major League Baseball. I'm not a big hockey guy, so a lot of times I don't always include them in my conversations because I can't speak as highly on them as the other sports. But, I'm sure in hockey, it's the same thing from a player standpoint and from a coaching standpoint. So what's the solution? Everyone is constantly bashing the NFL. I can't believe there's only one minority head coach in the National Football League. Well, what's the solution? And don't say hire more minorities. That's a very blanketed statement, but what do you mean by that? Does that mean now we take the coaches that are doing a good job, regardless of the skin color, to get rid of them, to give an African-American head coach an opportunity? I mean, what do you want out of this? That's what I don't know. And then how do you tell a guy like Daboll, who just got the Giants job, now he goes from feeling thrilled and excited about getting this opportunity with the Giants, and now it's like, oh man, everyone's saying you should not have this job. It should have been Brian Flores. And by the way, I would have preferred Brian Flores, a proven winning head coach. I mean, there's too many times where you're giving the keys to the car to a Zach Taylor or to these quarterback coaches or special team coaches who really haven't moved their way up the coaching ranks. You're giving the keys to the car to them just because they've rubbed elbows with Mike McCarthy or with Sean McVay. I'd much rather go to a Brian Flores, who has proven that with an owner that is trying to get him to lose football games and with not the best roster in the NFL has continually won 9 and 10 games the last 2 years. I would have loved to have Brian Flores in New York. But obviously that didn't happen. But 518-1410, genuinely curious. I know what the problem is. I don't need you to tell me that it's a problem that there's only one minority head coach in the National Football League. What I want to know is, how do you fix it? How do you fix it? Because I don't know what the solution is. And I don't want to hear, well, you hire more minority head coaches. Do you understand that these owners sit down with these candidates, and when they hire somebody, they truly feel like they are hiring the best person? And I get that the journey to get to that person, probably some shady things have happened, or maybe they've looked over some individuals. Maybe they didn't give an interview to somebody. The Eric Bieniemy thing fascinates me because not once, I mean, has he ever spoken out? Like, what I love about Brian Flores is he's speaking out. Too many times we have media members say, it's a problem with this, it's a problem with that. But the people that they're saying it's a problem for, we never hear them really speak out ever. Brian Flores is at least speaking out on this. Brian Flores is coming out saying it's wrong. That's why I'm suing the NFL. That's why, we got to, action instead of just words and all this. That's what I respect the hell out about what Brian Flores is doing. But what's the solution? You can't just come out and say, well, the Denver Broncos, they were late to our interview, an hour late. I think they were hungover. I'm going to sue them for racial bias. Well, how is that racial bias? I don't know. Would they have done that if it was a white coach? I don't know. But I'm also not ignorant to the fact that there is a lot of issues, underlying issues when it comes, to racial diversity, when it comes to these opportunities in professional sports and really all aspects of life, to be honest with you. But I just want to have that conversation. 518-1410. Willie, how are you, sir? Willie, you there? All right, let's get these phone lines filled up, and we'll take your calls on the other side. But 518-1410, that's the number to call in and jump in on the conversation. We'll get into that aspect coming up around the corner as well. Here's the other thing that we talked about a little bit ago, and that was the perception of tanking in sports. I was offended today by the likes of Dominique Foxworth and Marcus Spears and some others about the fact that they were upset about, tanking in sports. It was like they had never heard of an owner of a team trying to lose purposely to move up the draft board, right? Like he was, all these guys were so offended at the fact that the Dolphins were willing to pay their head coach to lose football games so that they could improve their draft stock because they really, really, really wanted Joe Burrow. Well, Joe Burrow's in the Super Bowl in year 2. Now I understand why they were willing to spend $100,000 per loss to improve their tanking status, right? Like it kind of makes sense a little bit now. But can we literally put these little cute hashtags on this tank for Tua? I'm not trying to be funny here, but there was the hashtag blow for Joe, right? Like the Bengals, man, this team really blows. Like they need to be really, really bad to get Joe Burrow. Like we literally put cute little funny little hashtags on these explanations for why teams are losing. And then today, this news breaks about Flores and the Dolphins owner paying him to lose games to help improve their draft status. And now everybody is saying, oh my gosh, that goes against the competitive integrity of the sport. What are you talking about? The competitive integrity of the sport, the same sport that rewards the worst teams in the league with the best players out of college. And you wonder why teams are like, you know what? We're probably a 7 to 8 win team right now, so we're not going to win a Super Bowl. And we're kind of at the max of our cap, so we can't really spend more to get more players to come in. I think we just need to blow this up. We'll just lose a bunch next year, get a good draft pick, and start over around that quarterback there. That's the only really method to trying to rebuild. If you look at all the Super Bowl teams, I mean, this is another example, by the way, of a team that gets to a Super Bowl within the rookie contract period of their quarterback. The Seattle Seahawks went to 2 Super Bowls with Russell Wilson on his rookie contract. Since he got his extension, he's never been back. Patrick Mahomes went to 2 Super Bowls during his rookie contract. It's not a surprise that this is the first year that he is, on the way to him making his $500 million. Well, guess what? He didn't make it back this year. And to be honest, I don't think he makes it back moving forward because as he gets paid more weapons have to go because of the money that's absorbed by that one quarterback. And now guess what? It's the Cincinnati Bengals' turn. And by the way, the Bills, their window to get to a Super Bowl, that's kind of collapsed a little bit because Josh Allen got paid. The Browns had an opportunity. I thought that they were well on their way. That's why they were able to spend all that money on the defense, get all those weapons on the offense. They had 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. They had OBJ, who obviously didn't work out, but the intent was there, right? They were able to do all that. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, they were able to get Hill in the offseason and Johnson and draft all these and Newsome and all these guys. They were able to do it with Ward. They were able to do all of that because they were on Baker's rookie contract. Now they're heading into that 5th-year option. Now he's going to make $20 million instead of $4 million. Guess what? It becomes a little bit more difficult to not compete, but a little bit more difficult to have an overstacked roster. The Bengals will win at least 1 Super Bowl, maybe 2 in the next 3 years. They'll have a chance because Joe Burrow in year 2 already with the deficiencies on that offensive line are in the Super Bowl. Guess what? They don't have to pay him for another 2 or 3 years. So and they don't have to pay Jamar Chase for another couple years. They don't have to pay T. Higgins for another couple years. They might, they already extended Joe Mixon a while back. They're going to work on Jesse Bates. They have more cap space than any other team that made the playoffs this year coming in. So the Bengals might win a Super Bowl in a week and a half. In 10 days, the Bengals could be Super Bowl champions, and they will have more cap space than any team that made the playoffs this year to improve their team. Why? Because their quarterback's on a rookie deal. That's really what it comes down to. So when that's the only way that you could build a Super Bowl caliber team is that, then that's going to be what continues to happen. The Dolphins knew we have to tank to get Tua until they realized that Tua was not as good as they thought. But that's why they were willing to unload 3 first-round draft picks to get Joe Burrow. You have to have the quarterback to be able to go on a Super Bowl run. Now, you look at the Los Angeles Rams who were in the Super Bowl this year. They did it differently. That's why this Super Bowl is very interesting for a lot of reasons. You have the Cincinnati Bengals who did it what most people would call the right way. They built this team through the draft, and they complemented it with free agents. They built the team through the draft with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and obviously Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. Okay, they built it through the draft. You go and you get your kicker and McPherson. They built that part through the draft. And then you know what they did? to fill the gaps on the defensive side of the ball. They spent over $200+ million over the last 2 off seasons to not basically have the sexiest defense on paper, but my God, they've had like 6 different guys force turnovers throughout this playoff run to get them to the Super Bowl. All guys that they spent money on, and they weren't even the sexiest of names. They've now got Mike Hilton from the Steelers, Eli Apple. All right, they got Hendrickson, who I was dead wrong on. He was worth every damn penny that they got. Owuzie. You look at everything. DJ Reader. Look at everything that they did. That was through free agency. That was through the money that they spent the last couple of off seasons. They built the offense through the draft. The way the Bengals did it is the way that most teams envision their draft and rebuild going. The Bengals have killed it. And I applaud them for it. Like, it's kind of fun. I thought that the Browns did a good job. The Browns weren't able to maximize what they were able to do the way the Bengals have, so I give the Bengals a ton of credit. Then you look at the Rams. The Rams are the polar opposite of the Bengals. The Rams are not organically built. The Rams, they don't have a first-round draft pick until 2023. They don't have a first-round draft pick until 2023. That's crazy to me. And when that time comes, they will be able, to probably start to regathering some of these draft picks. They're going to unload the Von Millers and the Aaron Donalds. They're going to trade away a lot of these big stars to get these draft picks back. And then they will either draft talent and develop them, or they will use those same draft picks to then trade for game-ready talent around the league. That's how they built this team. Aaron Donald's theirs. I get that. Kupp is theirs. I get that. But they got, obviously Patrick Ramsey. They obviously went out and got Matthew Stafford. I mean, they went out and they got every big name you could possibly think of, and they unloaded all of their first-round draft picks and second-rounders to be able to do that. So they are polar opposite of the Bengals. They built their team through draft picks, as in the picks that they traded away to get ready talent now, to where the Bengals used their draft picks to draft the talent and develop them and do it that way. This Super Bowl is fascinating because I think it could set the trend for what teams tried to copycat moving forward. It's a copycat league. If the Bengals win this Super Bowl, more teams will continue to stay the route of build through the draft. Get your rookie quarterback. Take advantage of the 4-year window that you have to pay all your other pieces around a quarterback on a rookie deal and attack it that way. Or if they get bloodied against the Rams in 10 days, there will be a lot of teams that say, well, look, we can just unload our roster. Look what the Jaguars did. They stripped their roster down. They got rid of Ngakoue. They got rid of Patrick Ramsey. They got rid of Leonard Fournette. They got rid of so many big names that they could possibly think of to unload to get all these draft picks back. Maybe instead of drafting players with these, we trade them to go get a talent. Those teams that have the Rams approach to, look at the Niners. They're going to try and unload draft pieces to go get Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. The same thing with the Denver Broncos. You are going to see teams say, you know what, these draft picks we have, let's unload these and let's go get talent that's ready to play now. Let's win now. If we get a Super Bowl out of it and we have to rebuild in a couple years, then so what? We at least got a Super Bowl. That's the Rams approach. If the Rams win this Super Bowl, they'll probably try to run it back next year, and then they'll unload everybody after that, and then they'll start it all over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. What you are seeing, I love this Super Bowl matchup because it's 2 teams that took completely different paths to get here. They are built completely different, but their goal is all the same, and that's to win this Super Bowl coming up. I love what the Bengals did in developing and building this team through the draft, a team that I did not give any credit to. I did not have any hope for. I did not think that they would draft well enough to build a Super Bowl contender. I did not think that they would have that they would be smart enough without a true, without having a front office that really puts a lot of emphasis in scouting, in the scouting department, all that. I thought there was no way that they would ever be good enough to analyze the draft picks properly and to be able to go out and get the right free agents. They have clicked on all cylinders from top down. And that's painful for me to say, but that's one hell of a way to get to the Super Bowl in a way that a lot of teams would love to follow that method moving forward. But the Rams, when they win this Super Bowl, if they win it, you're going to see a lot of teams start looking at them and saying, well, you know what? That's going to be back-to-back Super Bowls where the team that made the most big free agent moves in the offseason won it. The Buccaneers won the Super Bowl last year. Why? Well, they only added a Leonard Fournette. They only added a Tom Brady. They only added a Gronkowski. They only added an Antonio Brown. Right? Like, that team was all about what they did in the offseason free agent-wise. They won a Super Bowl. You look at the Rams, all right? They get Odell Beckham Jr. They go out and get Von Miller. They get Patrick Ramsey. They already have Aaron Donald. They go out and get Matthew Stafford. They win this Super Bowl, I promise you there's going to be more teams that their ears are going to perk up and they're going to start paying closer attention to what the Rams have been doing, and we might start to see a trend in that direction, or the draft doesn't become as dependent, like these teams don't become as dependent on the actual players in the draft themselves as they do the willingness to unload their draft picks to get talent that's ready to play right now. But 518-1410. I see Robert on hold. I see Dickie from Dayton on hold. I see Matt. I'm going to go through and make sure that you guys are all still sitting there patiently. We're going to get to you guys on the other side. But the Rams and the Bengals, it's fascinating watching how both got here. And I'm curious, do you agree with me that the winner of this Super Bowl is going to set the trend for how teams are going to try and build Super Bowl teams moving forward? Because if the Rams win, it's back-to-back Super Bowls from teams who really went hot and heavy in the offseason as far as free agents are concerned. The Bengals, a little bit of a blend of both, killed it in the draft, but also spent $200 million on their defense over the last 2 off seasons. More of the Justin Kinner Show when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash.
Justin, you're awesome, baby.
Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Fed up with companies selling your data? DuckDuckGo is on it. They help millions of people like you take back their privacy online. DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
The soothing scent of Vicks Vapor Rub. It's only one of the most iconic smells ever. That cooling, comforting scent generations of families have come to trust to help them feel better. And now you trust to soothe your family. Pick up some Vicks Vapor Rub in the little blue jar and wrap yourself with the calm only Vicks Vapor Rub can bring. Vicks Vapor Rub, always there for you.
It's football season again, which means it's football season again. And here at Frank's Red Hot, we put together a completely exhaustive list of essentials that will bring everyone together on game day. Essential number 1, Frank's Red Hot. I mean, come on, people, that was a given. Number 2, wings. Like, just so many wings. Okay, it looks like that's it. There's not even a third thing on the page. Do I just say the first 2 essentials again, or is that weird? Nope, just Frank's and wings? Okay, that's okay. Yeah. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
KTH Parts Industries has immediate openings for second and third shift production associates and equipment technicians. KTH promotes from within, offers an attractive benefit package including medical, dental, 401k, attendance bonus, and a competitive wage, starting at $19 per hour with annual increases and shift differential. KTH will be hosting walk-in interviews Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. through 3 p.m. Please bring a resume and photo ID to apply, or see other career opportunities at kth.net. KTH is an equal opportunity employer.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Don't miss the Hot Tub and Swim Spa Blowout Expo this weekend at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. Browse over 40 hot tubs from 5 major brands at up to 50% off. Financing is available and show admission is free. That's this weekend at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds in Dayton. Visit HotTubOH.com.
Alpha Media Dayton is seeking a digital sales specialist. The ideal candidate will have a proven track record of success in helping clients achieve their revenue goals through lead generation tactics and creative problem solving. This candidate must possess proven new business development skills and demonstrate extensive digital sales experience with core products and services such as OTT and CTV, targeted display, SEO and SEM, mobile, social, and web design, among others. Apply online at alphamediausa.com/careers. Alpha Media is an equal opportunity employer.
At McAfee, they're more than just an air temperature company. They're an air quality company. Breathe easy. Choose McAfee.
Football fans, the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show is officially back. Every Sunday morning starting at 11:30 a.m., College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers and Justin Kinner will be live at Frickers on 741 by the Dayton Mall. The guys will recap the biggest games from college football Saturday, including your Ohio State Buckeyes. The guys will also get you set up for the day's biggest NFL matchups, featuring your Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, and more. It's the Sunday Morning Tailgate Show, live from Frickers on 741, Sunday mornings at 11:30 on 1410 ESPN Radio.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash is brought to you by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. In fact, if you're looking to buy or sell your home, give my guy Brad a call today, 937-572-7425. Again, Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. He was my realtor. My fiance and I, we just bought our first home together. We're going to be getting married in May, and Brad was awesome in all of his assistance throughout the home buying process. And I promise you, a lot of good realtors in the area, but none better than Brad Mays. I promise you that much. Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Give him a call, 937-572-7425. In fact, the funny thing is, Brad was just at the house earlier today with this weather coming. We have this gas fireplace. I have no clue whether the damn thing works or not. So Brad stopped by earlier today to help me take a look at this gas fireplace. I'm either going to be freezing with no power tonight, or I'm going to blow my house up trying to figure out how to use this damn thing. So, but no, Brad's a lot of help. He's a great dude. I promise you, he will help you find that home, that perfect home. And man, we got, like I said, there were so many rejections. I hadn't been rejected. I was getting rejected on house and putting offer in after offer and getting rejected. I hadn't been rejected so much since college and high school. It was unbelievable. But the perfect house came about, and it's all because of Brad helping us be patient along the process as well. So Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash brought to you by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty and Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. In fact, we're excited that we're going to be having a Dayton Flyers pregame show with Sully coming up that will announce the date and everything coming up. Excited to be back out at Tim's Bar and Grill here in just a few weeks. So we'll have more information as we get closer to that. But we're live on Facebook as well. Head to Facebook, search the Justin Kinner Show, and you'll be able to watch the show and chime in there as far as that's concerned. For those calling in, when you call in, no one will answer your call necessarily. You're just going to be put on hold, and you'll hear the show, and then we'll hopefully get your name right whenever we bring you on. I'm solo today in the studio. Everyone has headed home to brace for the storm coming. We had tech issues earlier today. The building lost power. I believe there's a big accident here in Kettering, and it knocked out the power of a huge chunk of Kettering, including us. The generator wasn't working. It was just a huge mess. Our engineer kicked ass, got it all cleared up. But, so we're just trying to make this work today, and we're trying to get through the next couple of days with this storm coming. But we're glad that you're here hanging out with us here on a Wednesday. Bengals and, of course, the Rams coming up in the Super Bowl. We were talking about, of course, just how totally different these two teams are and how they're built and their journey to get to the Super Bowl. And you look at the pattern that has developed over the last decade, that teams with a quarterback in the top five, as far as most highest paid quarterbacks, their teams don't make it to the Super Bowl. That's why you don't see Aaron Rodgers. You haven't seen Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl in over a decade. You didn't see Drew Brees get to many. You only saw him get to one Super Bowl because he got paid pretty heavily. Patrick Mahomes signed a $500 million contract 2 off seasons ago, and we may have seen one of his last shots to get to a Super Bowl. As crazy as that sounds, I don't think we're that far off in saying that. These teams that go all in on these quarterbacks usually don't have enough financially left over to build a healthy Super Bowl caliber roster. The Rams got to the Super Bowl a few years ago. All right. They overreacted to the fact that Jared Goff was the quarterback of that Super Bowl team. So they overpaid him. And then what they have to do, they had to lose their running back. They had to lose a lot of their top stars. The Rams, they had to eat it a little bit. They were a 9 win team for the next couple of years after that Super Bowl because they went all in on Jared Goff, and Goff was not able to overcome being a big chunk of their financial responsibility to bring players up around him. That's why they unloaded draft picks. They unloaded Jared Goff, and they were able to get Matthew Stafford to come in and to be that talent to really kind of glue everything together. When you look at the likes of a Cooper Kupp, obviously now, having Odell Beckham Jr. and Cam Akers and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, I can't wait for the Super Bowl to see what ends up happening because both teams kicked ass and how they got here, not just on the field, but in the offseason. And I'm always fascinated by the offseason moves. We'll get to your calls on that in a moment. I did want to get back to some of the reaction from the Brian Flores situation. I know that some people cringe up and say, man, I'm so sick of talking about that stuff. That stuff is overlapped with sports. And I don't even mean to call it that stuff. That stuff. African-American head coaches in the NFL, there's only one. I do believe that that's a problem. I don't know how you could say that that's not a problem. Where I'm willing to at least meet halfway and say, I do think the NFL needs to do something about it. Where I am willing to meet halfway is I'm willing to think that I have a hard time believing that NFL owners all gather and say, you know what, we need to do our best to make sure that we don't hire any African-American head coaches. I don't think it's to that level. But I do think sometimes that although these owners are not directly thinking that or saying that, I do think that their upbringing or their surroundings can basically be a roadblock to them thinking outside the box of who they hang out with. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's really what it comes down to, outside of their comfort zone. If you own your own business and you're listening to this show, a lot of times you hire who you're comfortable with, and who you're comfortable with at times is a lot of the same kind of people you hang out with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. It's not that you don't like the kind of people that you don't normally hang out with, but you're just comfortable around a certain group or surroundings of people. It's not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily right, but that's kind of where some of this is coming from, which when you want to talk about, man, we got to fix this issue with only one African-American head coach in the National Football League. I think that before you could fix that issue, there's too many issues surrounding that position that need fixed before you can get there. Again, I don't think that the league is saying we don't want black head coaches in the National Football League. I definitely don't think that. I do believe that there are too many non-minority team owners that, you know what I mean? Like, so, you got to think if there was more diversity within team ownership, you would start to see more diversity in the way people are hired, because you would have people from different circles hiring from within their different circles instead of all hiring from the same circles, if you will. I don't think it's a direct racist mindset, but I do believe it is a mindset that has to be reset to where the guys and gals could think outside of their comfort zone, if you will. Race is always a topic that people get uncomfortable talking about. I would be lying if I said that sometimes I want to avoid these topics because I fear saying the wrong thing. My biggest fear is that I think I'm doing the goofy white guy thing where I think I'm saying the right thing and I come across sounding even dumber than just saying something abundantly insensitive, right? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I fear talking these topics because my biggest fear is saying something that could be misconstrued or taken out of context, but I do believe it's important to talk about it. And when I say talk about it, I mean have a conversation. If I get something wrong and you disagree with me, I would love to be educated on where am I wrong thinking about this. Everything with race always has to be so damn confrontational, and that's what I can't stand. It's always, people need to listen. People need to listen. Well, when people are willing to listen or people say things, there's an opportunity to have a conversation to fix it. But instead, we want to cancel people. We want to yell at people. We want to call them racist. I just don't get how that is going to make things better, big picture. Now, there are some people who deserve to be called that. There are some people who deserve to be yelled at and held accountable for it. But, it's just everything is so confrontational in today's world. And I don't know when that'll change either. But nonetheless, 518-1410, I asked earlier, solutions to fixing the minority head coaching issues in not just NFL, but pro sports in general. How do you fix it? We know what the problem is. We've been talking about this problem for a decade, maybe more. How do you fix it? because I'm tired of hearing about the problem. I want to start hearing about how we're going to fix it. You look at, as we talked about earlier, you look at the Rooney Rule. That was a step in the right direction as far as at least having a plan in place to address that issue. The problem is as in any protocols in a hiring process, is there's loopholes. There's ways to get around it. There is, oh man, you know what? I really like Sean Payton. Like, let's say this year, here's an example. Okay. Eric Bieniemy was a name that was tossed around for the Bengals head coaching vacancy a couple years ago when Zach Taylor got the job. Let's say, and I said this coming into this year, that my hot take coming into this season was that Sean Payton was going to resign at the end of this season because, it's tough to win in the league when you don't have Drew Brees. You're so used to coaching a Drew Brees-led team, you don't realize how easy it is to coach a Drew Brees-led team until he's no longer there. So I said that he would struggle this year or at least win some games, but it wouldn't be as enjoyable and that he would resign from the Saints, and that's exactly what happened. My hot take was that he would be the next head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals because me, just like everyone out there, did not anticipate that Zach Taylor, who had won 6 games in 2 years, would all of a sudden lead them to a damn Super Bowl. As crazy as that sounds, that's the situation we're in. But I truly felt that if the Bengals would have won 6 or 7 games this year after winning 6 total games the previous 2 years, and Sean Payton's available, that the Bengals would kick the tires on that. And I thought it would be one hell of a fit, especially with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. I mean, that's a hell of an offense similar to the Alvin Kamara, the Michael Thomas, and the Drew Brees offense that he had in New Orleans. So that was my big take coming into the season. Well, obviously, Zach Taylor has the Bengals in the Super Bowl, but let's assume that he wasn't, okay? Let's assume that the Bengals weren't in the Super Bowl. Let's assume they didn't make the playoffs. Let's pretend that they won 6 or 7 games and that, you Bengals fans were still upset of how the season went. And let's say that the Bengals decided to fire Zach Taylor, okay? Now you have Sean Payton out there. So are the Bengals supposed to not want to hire a Sean Payton out of fear of being criticized for not even hiring an African-American coach? Because that's what I feel like this is going towards, to where now it's going to be a situation where instead of hiring minority head coaches out of just doing it because it's the right thing, are we going to see teams start to hire coaches just to hire them so they don't get public backlash? And that's what I'm curious about. I'm not stirring the pot, I'm not trying to come across insensitive, but I do have to ask, because let's say Eric Bieniemy's name gets brought up for the Bengals again this season if they had moved on from Zach Taylor. It would have made sense to go with the Eric Bieniemy route. But if you have Sean Payton waiting right there, it's not a white or black thing. It's a Super Bowl Hall of Fame head coach versus an offensive coordinator that hasn't proven anything yet. And I sometimes think it honestly comes down to that. Now, there are examples of unproven white coaches who get opportunities, and no offense, Bengals fans, but your head coach is one of them. Okay. The Browns have Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski at least was an offensive coordinator for many years who had success as the actual play caller, right? Zach Taylor was a quarterback special teams coach, and he goes from a quarterback special teams coach to boom, being a head coach of a National Football League team. Now the Bengals got it right. He has them in the Super Bowl. More power to him. When the Browns hired Freddie Kitchens, I'm like, what are you guys doing? The guy is just strange and weird. I mean, I don't understand how he won over an interview room whatsoever. He was also a quarterback special teams coach, and now he's the head coach of a team that had Super Bowl aspirations. We all saw how that worked out. That didn't work out. There's a lot of weird, strange hires. One didn't work out with Freddie Kitchens for obvious reasons. And then you look at what Zach Taylor's doing in Cincinnati, doing a phenomenal job. But the point is there's a lot of coaches who get hired that don't really have the resume to justify it, and they get those opportunities. I think what a lot of people are screaming about is the fact that, when are we going to see a African-American quarterback / special teams coach be gambled on? Like Zach Taylor, the Bengals gambled on him. Okay. You didn't know that you were going to hire a coach that was going to lead you to a Super Bowl. You're hoping that the 12-year-old quarterback / special teams coach for the Rams who rubbed elbows with Sean McVay, you were hoping that just enough of that magic dust from Sean McVay was going to rub off on the Bengals. That's really what happened. That's why he got hired, right? When are African-American coaches in those similar situations going to get that benefit of the doubt? That's, I think, the other side to this that hasn't been discussed or talked about. And that's where, there's not many African-American. Eric Bieniemy is a proven offensive coordinator who has called, many Super Bowls, who has a Super Bowl, has coached alongside Andy Reid. Why are people not knocking down his door to get him to be their head coach the same way that anyone that rubbed elbows with Sean McVay in his Super Bowl appearance, not even a Super Bowl, knocking down those guys' doors to get them to lead their teams? I think that is more of an example. Like, to me, it's not as simple as only one African-American head coach. I think it comes down to the way we perceive white coordinators and African-American coordinators coming up through the ranks, getting more African-Americans within the ranks of these franchises to move their way up the coaching ranks. And unfortunately, we've seen way too many examples of that not being the case. That's where the issue stems from. And that's really what the NFL is going to have to take a look at, in my opinion. Again, I'm Justin Kinner, little old no-name guy in Dayton, Ohio, trying to have this conversation. I get it. It's not, I'm not going to make a difference, but, we're having this conversation. 518-1410. Let's go to Clifford. Clifford, thanks for holding, sir.
I think this comes from just the whole thing of just how the press from back in the old days, from, how black people was treated, and, the housing market and jobs and stuff like that. So I think that's really what this stems from. So this situation probably really don't make it no better. And then plus, I don't know how you can fix it, but I think that sports all the way across the board is down right now. I think I read that Major League has only like a few black managers, and the WNBA only has like 5 black head coaches in their league. So it's down all across the sports now. So you look at that and you compare, you say, well, it's down in all sports. So this has to be a problem. That's all I really wanted to say.
No, and Clifford, and again, I completely agree with you. But at the end of the day, it's just one of those mindsets that I think is universally across the board that we got to figure out a solution to fixing this. That's what I don't understand is what is the solution to fix this issue at hand? We know what the problem is. We've been screaming what the problem is for decades now, but nobody, we want to have a class action lawsuit against the NFL. We keep saying, but we need to see change. We need to see change. Well, what are you suggesting, Brian Flores? What is it that you, I don't want to come across as, well, what do you want? We know what you want. We know what African-American minority coaches want as far as the opportunities are concerned, but what are you suggesting be done about it? Now, to be fair, it shouldn't be up to you to figure out how to fix that. It shouldn't be a problem that has to be fixed to begin with. That's why this continuously goes in circles, is because the people that are in the right positions to be able to effectively come up with these solutions don't. And then what ends up happening is you have a guy like Brian Flores who is finally willing to not just go to the media and say, man, I think it's a problem that we don't have many African Americans, within these high profile, coaching spots. Instead, then they say that and then they move on. But now you have a guy that's physically taking the bull by the horns, who is literally going at the NFL, a class action lawsuit. I applaud Brian Flores for standing up to the NFL, for bringing attention to this in a different way that goes beyond just putting out a tweet or dropping it in an interview on ESPN radio or television or what have you. So that's really, this is a good start to that. But unfortunately, he's bringing and shedding light on this issue that we all know that this issue exists. But until the powers that be come up with the solution, I just think this is never going to stop. And that's what's frustrated at the end of the day. 518-1410, 518-1410. Let's go to Adam. Adam, thanks for holding. All right, Adam. Caller, what's your name? I did not get your name before putting you on hold. What you got for us?
This is Ron from Kettering.
Ron in Kettering. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Just calling in to get in the conversation of the topic there with the African Americans being head coaches. Question for you would be, and I listen to you every day. You guys are great, and I get to spend a lot of time in my truck going to different jobs and listen to conversations from morning to you guys come on. But when organizations are hiring a head coach, when they're looking to hire a head coach, I heard the part where you said rubbing elbows or where they're going with picking coaches.
Yep.
Aren't most coaches, when they go to look at a coach, do they look at coaches that's got experience in the NFL being a head coach? Do you think it's more they're looking for that than ignoring the problem about bringing a minority into the organizations? There's assistant coaches throughout the NFL where, like you was talking, I forget who you said his name was, would be a candidate for coming in and being a head coach, but never been offered. How many African Americans are their assistant coaches or offensive coordinators or defensive, that would fit that mold. Is there a number of those?
Off the top of my head, I can't sit here and just rattle off names and pretend that I have that in front of me. But Eric Bieniemy is kind of the face of that guy without any head coaching experience, but is bringing to the table what every team is looking for right now. Like real quick, while I have you here, you look at Brian Daboll, the coach that the Giants just hired. They went out and took a chance on him with no head coaching experience because he was the offensive, genius behind the Buffalo Bills offensive attack. Well, let's be real. There's a lot of offensive coordinators, white and black or whatever race you want to throw out there, that have good offensive mindsets, but sometimes they don't have the quarterback to orchestrate those game plans. Daboll was fortunate to have Josh Allen kind of just turn into a star. And, was it because of the game plan or is it because of the fact that he's a star quarterback? I think it had more to do with who the quarterback was. I don't expect Daniel Jones and the Giants to just turn into an offensive juggernaut because they hired the offensive brain trust behind Josh Allen's offensive attack in Buffalo. And that's what's frustrating about Eric Bieniemy is Daboll's getting an opportunity because he was the play caller for the Buffalo Bills high-powered offense, but yet Eric Bieniemy every year gets passed over and over and over, and he has the same exact role. He's the same person for the Chiefs organization that Daboll is for the Giants, and yet Daboll's viewed differently. We can't say it's race. I don't know if it's race, but it doesn't have a good look that you continue to see guys that have similar resumes, even lesser resumes without Super Bowls, get opportunities that Bieniemy is not.
Yeah, I agree. I think if there's going to be some kind of hearing or some kind of get together and discuss this topic, things like that need to be brought up. It's why aren't people looking at like the Emini and who? Why are they passing him? Like didn't you say he did go to a Super Bowl?
He won a Super Bowl. He was the play caller for the Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl in his third year in the league, second full year starting. But yeah, but that's the big thing. That's why I'm saying like Daboll is the white version of Eric Bieniemy, and he's the white version of Bieniemy without a Super Bowl. Bieniemy at least has a Super Bowl. That's what I find just fascinating about this as far as the justification is concerned. I do understand in the league, and thank you, man, for the call, Ron. I appreciate you. The other thing too is, and here's where this is becoming a thing. So you look at Matt LaFleur with the Packers, and you look at obviously right now Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur has done a fantastic job with Green Bay. A product of the McVay offense. You look at McVay, you look at Shanahan. Now those are four white coaches right there. Those are four super successful white coaches as we currently sit here right now, and they all stem from the same coaching pedigree with the same offensive mindset and philosophy. So it's a copycat league. Now, when I say copycat league, I don't think that the NFL says, you know what? You want to know why those coaches are successful? It's because they're white. No, they're successful because of that offensive scheme that they were all a part of when they were all together at Washington, and then they were a part of Sean McVay with the Rams, and then it kind of trickled, across the board like that. So when I met rubbing elbows, it was, oh man, Sean McVay is the brain. He's the leader behind that offensive attack that is the Rams offense, and anyone associated with him is automatically viewed as that guy that we're going to get to turn our franchise around. So when you see things like that start to trickle down, it's like, oh, I understand why they took a chance on Matt LaFleur. I didn't like that the Bengals took a chance on Zach Taylor, who was a quarterback / special teams coach, but they did it because why? Of the Sean McVay rub, hoping that he could take any of that knowledge that he was able to absorb well with him and bring it to Cincinnati. And look, obviously it was the right decision. And you can't look at Matt LaFleur and obviously Zach Taylor, and you look at all these offensive-minded head coaches, Stefanski in Cleveland, they all work. And I don't think it's a white or black thing. I just think they happen to be a part of these offensive schemes. That's what also makes the Eric Bieniemy thing so frustrating, is because it's not like Eric Bieniemy is a defensive coordinator and teams are saying, well, we appreciate and respect his defensive prowess. However, this is an offensive league right now, so we're really looking for these offensive-minded coordinators to make our head coach. Well, Brian Daboll fits that mold, but so does Eric Bieniemy. And Eric Bieniemy's been looking for a job for years, and he's been right behind one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL for years now. 518-1410, 518-1410. More of your phone calls on this exact matter on the other side. We're live on Facebook, The Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. I appreciate the calls. Thank you for being patient. We don't have a phone screener today. We'll get that back later this week. With this storm coming, I thought it was best just to get as many people out of this building as possible so that we can close up shop today and get home and see how bad or not so bad this storm's going to be. But to be patient with us, appreciate you guys. We'll be back in just a few moments.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Every 4 years, the world's greatest athletes compete for gold.
Team USA wins gold!
That time is now. The Winter Olympics are coming to NBC and Peacock.
Team USA would not be denied.
17 days of action, excitement, glory, and history in the making.
United States wins gold!
Don't miss a single epic moment. The Winter Olympics, starting February 3rd on NBC and Peacock.
Hey, Ray Magliozzi here. Have you ever cooked a really fine gourmet meal? Yeah, me neither. But I'm told it all comes down to the ingredients. And when I need ingredients to improve my car, the place I go is eBay Motors. Whether you roasted your last transmission, graded your current floor mats, or pureed your side view mirror on a lamppost, eBay Motors has the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them. And by the way, if you recently fired up your grill, don't worry, eBay Motors has grills too. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
And now an important message from Exergen. A critical new FDA study proves that non-contact thermometers are not accurate. They also have inaccurate information on their labels regarding accuracy. New COVID strains are on the rise, and non-contact manufacturers are being irresponsible at a time when accuracy matters. Accurate temperature measurements are essential. Switch to Exergen because they are accurate and backed by over 100 clinical studies. Be sure, be accurate with Exergen. Learn more at Exergen.com.
We're a farm store, a family store, a look what I found store. We're a store made for real people and some real beasts. We're a hey neighbor kind of store and an everyday low price store. We're Rural King, and we're working hard to be your favorite store. Check out the huge selection of men's, women's, and kids' Wrangler clothing at the lowest prices every day, like these Wrangler Retro Bootcut jeans for just $49.99.
The Dayton Fire Department is hiring and accepting applications beginning January 4th, running through February 20th. If you have a determined attitude and are looking for an exciting job with great pay, superior training, with college credits available after training, excellent benefits, and a rewarding career, then the Dayton Fire Department needs you. Visit joindaytonfire.com for more information today. Minorities especially encouraged to apply. The DFD is an equal opportunity employer. The Dayton Fire Department. Come live the dream.
Staples stores are a new world of possible with innovative tools for small business and remote workers and learners. Explore more at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com.
Hey everybody, it's Stephen A. Smith, and everyone knows my feelings on Cowboys fans. But really, Justin Kinner, you're a Cowboys fan and a Browns fan? Good Lord have mercy. I don't know what the hell to do with y'all. I really don't.
It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. WING 1410 Dayton, Dayton's ESPN Radio.
So we got this big old winter storm coming our way, of course, and I'm not going to make light of this storm because, you know, I never want to be that guy. And this happens every year, every time that there's a storm coming, whether it be a winter storm or potentially a tornado or a thunderstorm or flooding or something real bad. You get these people like Dayton 24/7 now. And by the way, we have great news stations all throughout the city. We're very fortunate for the media coverage we have in town, whether it comes to news, sports, what have you. They all do a good job. I always follow Dayton 24/7 now. You know, Adrian Michaels and them, they do a fantastic job. I really like them. And to see the hate that they get on social media, to see the people attack them every time they say, here's what the radar's showing. And then you guys have the nerve to yell at them. Oh, it's raining. I thought you said it was going to snow. Why? Why are you mad at them? If what they are warning you could happen ends up not happening, you're mad at them. It's good to be prepared. You know, I thought the tornado coverage was fantastic. You know, they did a great, anytime there's these big storms coming through, they do a great job of keeping you informed and keeping you updated. And they people get mad, they're cutting into my favorite shows. I just want to give a shout out to Dayton 24/7 now, obviously, Channel 7, the list of WDTN. I'm giving a shout out to everyone, all the meteorologists in town, all the weather stations in town, kudos to them because, I appreciate their work, and I do want to give a shout out to them on that, especially with this storm coming. It could be really, really bad. We could lose power. It could be, obviously travel could be impacted and will be impacted. It could be a lot of snow, or it could end up being a whole lot of nothing and ends up that it warms up more than they anticipated. It just turns into rain. That's a good thing too, But I'm not going to be mad at them if the forecast doesn't come out to be 100% what they said it was going to be. I just get amazed at how mean you people can be sometimes to the weather men and women for whatever reason. It just makes no sense, but I appreciate all of them out there, all the networks in town, no matter what network or station you're comfortable watching. For me, it's Dayton 24/7 now. I think they do a great job, but follow them for updates throughout, whether it's Dayton 24/7 now or whoever. Follow them because, it's good for, to be updated on kind of the road conditions and just how severe this storm can get. But I'm never that guy that tries to talk bad about them if the information they give me is a little incorrect. And I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. I'm different. My fiance and I are completely different. I remember when that tornado hit 2 years ago. I'm losing my mind. You're going to make fun of me, and I don't really care. But I put dog leashes on her. I got all the dogs round up, and I put the leashes on. And I even found ways to get the cats tied up to a leash too, so that if the storm did hit our house, I'm at least holding on to all of the damn leashes in case. And my fiance is looking at me like, if it hits our house, we're gone. So I don't know why you're going through all that. I'm like, I'm just trying to be prepared. I'm trying to be as organized as possible. She texts me today, okay, because we don't have any. We have nothing at the house. We're not prepared. I got to go get bread, milk, all that stuff afterwards if there's any left at Kroger or what have you after the show. But, she goes to the store. She texts me today, and I told her, I was like, hey, we need a lot of stuff, for the week, for the next couple of days. If we're trapped inside, I really need to make sure we get bread and milk and some things to eat while we're at home or what have you. And she goes, oh, no, I got a couple bottles of wine, and I got us a case of beer or whatever, so we're set. I said, we're not set. I said, what the hell you mean that's all you got? So that's how different, polar opposite we are. As long as she has her wine and a couple cases of beer to, so we can have that while we're trapped inside for the next couple of days, that's all she cares about. And I'm like, so we're not going to have anything to eat? When I get drunk, I like to eat. And if we don't have food in the house, that's a kind of a problem. But that's an example right there of just how polar opposites we are in prepping for these storms and these disasters. Nothing phases her. I overreact to everything. I freak out at everything. I think we're going to wake up tomorrow and our house will be covered to the very top of snow. And she's just like, if we wake up without power, no big deal. It's a big deal to me. I freak out at everything. But nonetheless, be prepared. Follow the coverage. Follow Dayton 24/7 now or whoever your network is that you're comfortable with. That was a very long PSA to say, just be careful tonight and tomorrow. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. And you're probably tired of people telling you what to do. So I'll stop doing that as of at least right now. But 518-1410, Brian Flores, the NFL. Yes, it's been all that today on this show. It's been all that across the board. But I feel like I just have a different take on this. When I'm watching these shows and they're doing nothing but, well, it's a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem. Well, we know it's a problem. We know that there's only one African-American head coach in the National Football League. We know that's a problem, but what the hell's the solution? Like that's really why I get a little impatient with this, is because what is the solution? And don't say the solution is more minorities and head coaching opportunities. Yes, we know what the end game is, but how do you get there? All right, how do you get to that point? And I'm not hearing a whole hell of a lot of that from anybody. Brian Flores, I respect the hell out of him for him having the guts to step up and start a class action lawsuit. I mean, this isn't just a bad tweet calling out the NFL. This isn't he did a radio interview and decided to call out the NFL. No, he filed a class action lawsuit. All right. Like that's stepping up to the plate. And that's a guy that may not ever coach in the NFL again because he's taking a stance and trying to create some change. I respect that. My only areas of dissection when it comes to the class action lawsuit I don't know how you prove that race is the base for some of the issues at hand. The fact that Bill Belichick texted the wrong, texted the wrong Brian, congratulating him on getting the Giants job. He hadn't even interviewed for the Giants job. And yet the Giants had already knew that they were going to hire Brian Daboll as their next head coach. And they're like, that's proof right there of racial bias. And I'm like, I don't know. How do you know that there was not some other white coaches that they were going to interview between now and they announced that it was Daboll? Because sometimes when you know who your guy is, It's not a matter of, oh, I want him because of race. No, like they knew they wanted the offensive coordinator from the Bills because of how good the offense is with Josh Allen. Now you could say, well, why don't they want Eric Bieniemy? It's a very valid question. But if that organization wants Brian Daboll, I don't always believe it's because, oh, he's white, that's why I want him. I don't think that it's always race related. However, there's too many examples, and the numbers show there's not enough minority representation within the coaches in professional sports, especially the NFL. I get that that is the talking point, but how do you prove that? The class action lawsuit, that's one of the examples issued in there. How do you prove that that's race related? How do you prove that, they already made up their mind on Brian Daboll before interviewing you? And everyone's like, well, he was only being interviewed because of the Rooney Rule. Exactly. The Rooney Rule is forcing teams to interview candidates that some of them are not interested in. Now, some of it could be because of what people are concerned about, that it's race related, or some are saying, hey, I know what I want. I know who I want. If Sean Payton, if Eric Bieniemy or Sean Payton, you have to take your pick between the two, who are you picking? Are teams going to be forced to hire minority head coaches out of fear of the backlash they will get if they don't, and pass up on a Sean Payton, who's a proven Super Bowl winning head coach, one of the best offensive minds in all of football? Or are teams going to be forced to hire a minority head coach to, try to avoid backlash? I know what I'm saying sounds a little insensitive, and I apologize if it's coming across that way, but those are serious questions that have to be asked, because I don't know what the solution is. Is the solution teams can't hire any white coaches anymore out of fear of backlash for not hiring a minority, and then you hire a unproven minority head coach to take over a job vacancy because your fear of backlash of proving a proven white coach at that point? But then the issue becomes, well, why are there so many proven white coaches and not enough proven African-American coaches? You're not wrong there either. That's what I'm saying. There's so many issues with all of this that there is not a clear solution to how to address this. That's all. And it stinks, and it's frustrating, and there's a lot of people hurt by this, and there's a lot of people frustrated by this, and I don't know what the solution is. I've appreciated the calls and the feedback on social media today, as far as that's concerned. Let's see, going down to Mike Haywood says, there is no chance that the Broncos coach and Bears coach have better resumes than Leftwich and Bieniemy. And that's kind of my point. That's where these arguments stem from, is if you're going to take a chance on coaches, it always seems the coaches that are being given a chance, or that teams are taking a chance on, like I believe the Bengals took a chance on Zach Taylor. Well, it always seems the coaches that teams are taking a chance on that lack the experience always seem to be white. That's where the problem stems from. And I agree with that. I agree that that's a problem. How many African-American coaches are teams taking a chance on? Eric, you look at, Eric Bieniemy, I believe any team that hires him, that's not a guy that I look at as a team taking a chance on. If the Vikings were to hire Eric Bieniemy, I don't think anyone's going to say, oh man, it looks like the Vikings are going to take a chance on Eric Bieniemy. No, the Vikings would be hiring Eric Bieniemy. I think they're actually taking a chance more with Harbaugh than they're taking a chance with anybody else, to be quite honest with you. But I agree with that statement. I think that when you have too many coaches that are being given an opportunity, or that teams are taking a chance on, and when I say taking a chance on, it's usually coaches that don't have the beefed up resume to justify hiring them. Then owners can hide behind, well, I really liked his vision. I really liked the way he interviewed. When I really like this, I really like that. Okay. Well, that's your right as a team owner. It's frustrating. I know that people want transparency, but sometimes transparency doesn't always lead to what you want. If these owners started announcing why they didn't hire so-and-so, then we will still continue to sit here and nitpick the reasons for why they don't want to hire certain folks. I've always said that too. This isn't race related, but about the officiating. People want the officials to be interviewed after a game like athletes are. That the officials should have to be grilled by the media the way that a player does after a big game. Hey, you threw, you targeting call on this individual here. You missed 2 targeting calls against the Rams in the second half. What did you see and all that? I understand why people would want that, but keep in mind, their explanation, they'll give you an explanation, but you're still going to be unhappy about it. You're still going to nitpick it. You're still going to dissect it. And it's just going to be, it's still going to lead to conflict. It's still always going to be something that's talked about in circles, but nonetheless, Javier says Brian Flores has a great resume better than Brian Daboll. I agree. I agree with you. I'm not like debating that. I think what this copycat league, though, is in regards to that is the fact that you look at some of these offenses in the NFL. Sorry, I had to grab my charger. You look at these offenses in the NFL, and there are all these teams in the NFL, the successful teams. They're all offensive-minded head coaches, and I think that's the craze right now in the NFL is these teams are going after these offensive coordinators who have these offensive mindsets that they're winning with. That's why you see Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. You look at Shanahan with the 49ers. Okay, you look at you look at McVay with the Rams, and now, as funny as it sounds, you look at Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals. The one thing they all have in common is all the fact that these guys come from these offensive-minded Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. Okay. Is that the only way to win in the NFL? No, but that's the latest way that everyone's winning in the NFL. And it's leading to popularity in free agency. When you hire an offensive-minded head coach, that's how you get the best receivers to come to you. That's how you get the best quarterbacks and the best offensive guys that want to go play for you. Do you want to go play for an offensive-minded head coach? Or do you want to go play for a guy that, like a Rex Ryan, who's all about defense? And it's like, well, how are you going to maximize my potential as an offensive player? I think, honestly, that's what it comes down to. But obviously, the underlying issue is the fact that the majority of those coaches seem to be white coaches and what have you. Eric Bieniemy is just as much of an offensive-minded head coach as a Matt LaFleur or as a Kevin Stefanski or as, Sean McVay and Shanahan, and the list goes on and on. I could even add, Brian Leftwich into the conversation, who was a part of the offensive success of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who Tom Brady at 44 years old threw for more yards and touchdowns than at any point in his prime of his career. Brian Leftwich is behind that. He should be he should be a guy that teams take a chance on, right? Like, I agree. Like, we're pinpointing those issues. We know that. That's all, as far as that's concerned. But Mike Haywood says the vibe of the whole show today has felt very white apologetic. I don't know even how to respond to that, Mike. I really don't even know how to respond to that, to be honest with you. I feel like we've been very bringing issues to the table that are out there. We've heard so many different takes throughout the day. I'm giving you mine. I'm not saying that there's not an issue. There's definitely an issue, but I want to know how in this class action lawsuit are you going to be able to prove that race is the reason that Brian Flores was not hired by the Giants? How do you prove that race was the reason that the 49ers, or that the Broncos, I keep blaming the 49ers, poor Niners. I need to know, how do you prove that race was the reason that the Broncos front office showed up late to an interview with Brian Flores? It's unprofessional, no matter what the reasoning is, but how do you know that race was that reason? The Giants not hiring him. How do you know that they hired Mike Daboll because the color of his skin over that of Brian Flores? Again, it seems strange. You're taking a chance on an unproven offensive coordinator / head coach in Brian Daboll over a proven 19-win coach in 2 years over the Miami Dolphins in Brian Flores. It seems odd. It seems kind of strange, but at the same time, how do you prove, outside of the fact that it involves an African-American, how do you prove that race was involved in that decision? That's all. That's what I'm asking. Not stirring the pot, not trying to be controversial. I just want to know. I just want to know as far as that's concerned. Damon Hahn says change will not happen until there's change in leadership. Possibly, but again, that would mean forcing guys out of their position of team ownership. And a lot of team owners will say, well, look, I'm not making hiring decisions based on skin color. I'm making hiring decisions based on guys that I think are the best for the job. And a lot of owners make bad decisions. We talk about one of the worst teams ownership in all of the NFL. And of course, the Cincinnati Bengals, right? But Mike Brown's a questionable owner for a lot of reasons. Is race one of them? I don't know. You look at the Haslams of Cleveland. Cleveland Browns, they're one of the biggest jokes of an organization in all of professional sports, not just the NFL. Is race part of that reason? Could it be? Hugh Jackson came out earlier today and insinuated that he was basically offered similar incentives to tank games back when he was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, very similar to what some of the allegations that Brian Flores had against the Miami Dolphins. So there's a lot of examples that are floating around. But again, what I can't wrap my head around is, what does race have to do with the Dolphins owner asking Brian Flores to tank games? I feel like that was more he wanted to tank games to be able to get a Joe Burrow more so than it was. I don't know how race plays a role in that. Again, outside of the fact that it's an African-American head coach involved. Are you saying that if Brian Flores was white, that the ownership would not have asked him to tank games for $100,000 a game? I'm asking. I'm not stirring the pot. I'm not trying to be controversial. I just want to know. I don't get it. And if I'm missing something, that's why I'm asking. I'm not going to pretend to know every little detail about this or to try to preach to you. That's definitely not what I'm trying to do here. I'm genuinely asking. I don't get, outside of the fact that it involves an African-American head coach, outside of that, what does race have to do with an owner asking a coach to tank ball games? If you want to criticize the owner for asking any coach to tank, I get that. I'm 100% on your side on that. But unless you're saying that he only asked him to do it because he's African American, then I don't understand how you prove that either. That's all. Continuing to go down the list. Mike Nympher on Facebook says the fix will be that every future interview will be done with a member of the NFL Players Association in attendance. Okay. Again, I was asking for people for solutions. So just more accountability. But again, with the NFL being a private institution and these team owners, they're not going to vote to that. They're not going to agree to that. Now, to Mike's point, they should, right? Like the ownership should be all about transparency. If you don't have shady reasons for your decision making, then you shouldn't want to hide those reasons, right? If you are confident that you are not using race as a factor as far as moving a name into a true candidate pile or a non-candidate pile, then I would be all about transparency. I would definitely say, all right, you want to know what went into my decision-making for who I wanted to lead my football team? Okay, here it is. Here's why this guy was in my pile for a possible candidacy to be the next head coach of my team. And here's why this name was in this pile as far as me not being interested. But I'm telling you right now, if coaches do that, you will still have media members. You will still have former players. You will still have fans find reasons to discredit the justifications that they're giving for why they don't hire certain folks. Or they'll do what they did with the Rooney Rule. They will find loopholes around it. They will find ways to tell you what you want to hear, and they'll start using those buzzwords like, for instance, Eric Bieniemy. He doesn't interview well. Well, that's what every team is using to justify not hiring Eric Bieniemy. Oh, he doesn't interview well. Well, I don't care. Can he call a good play that's going to lead to 7 points and lead you to a Super Bowl? That's really all it comes down to. Didn't interview well. What does that mean? So they'll find buzzwords and explanations as far as that's concerned. Paul Wilcox says there is absolutely no solution for racism when hiring a head coach, doctor, plumber, et cetera, et cetera. It's just hard. I'm fascinated by this class action lawsuit because maybe there's proof that they have that goes beyond just those bullet points that had been released already to the media. I mean, they're very confident that they have a lot of proof to go at the Giants, to go at the Denver Broncos, to go at the Miami Dolphins and the National Football League in general. That's what I find fascinating about all this. Mike Haywood says, well, that's why you do a lawsuit, because now you can require emails and texts. Well, until you get those emails and texts, I don't understand how you can come out and with these accusations before you get those. You're assuming at this point, which based on the history of, obviously the Washington football team, now the Commanders, by the way, you look at the John Gruden situation with the Raiders, you look at, of course, the Washington Commanders situation now with Daniel Snyder, where there's smoke, there's fire, where there's a lot more where that came from, I guess, is kind of the mindset as far as looking further and further into it. Willie Hayden says, remember when Burrow was drafted and talk radio said he should refuse to go to the Bengals? Well, damn, Willie, what the hell does that have to do with what we're talking about? But yeah, I remember that. Yeah. The Bengals didn't deserve the benefit of the doubt at that time. Now I promise you this, you won't hear that if the Bengals ever get back to a situation where they have to draft a quarterback. I promise you, no one's going to be saying that about the Bengals at that point, because now there's an actual example of a quarterback coming in and thriving despite all the deficiencies with the roster and all of the roadblocks in the way. So, yeah. Information changes. It's how it works. Mike goes on to say the NFL took less time with no investigation on allegations than they did for Deflategate. Something is there. Maybe something is. They're hiding something. Is it, racial, inequality, proof? I don't know. I don't know. Definitely not defending the NFL. They're shady as hell. I'm not defending the NFL here, but nonetheless. All right, step away for a few moments. Someone asked me earlier, about the tanking in sports, about what I would do to kind of Aaron Parrish. Shout out to Aaron Parrish. Appreciate you listening. Just like the Facebook page a little bit ago. He says, what do you suggest the NFL do instead? An NBA style lottery, talking about the draft. Because I'm sick and tired of people today acting like they're shocked that the Dolphins might have potentially tried to incentivize, their coach to lose ball games to help improve their draft status. The same thing that every bad team does. Every time a team unloads all their best players to start a rebuild, that's basically tanking. Rebuilding is tanking, folks. So to sit there and say the Dolphins, man, they really are, that's a real shot to the, to the integrity of the game and all this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Rebuilding is tanking. No, it's not. Rebuilding means you're bringing in a bunch of new young talent to develop. Yes, which is also a nice coded little way of saying we're bringing in young talent that doesn't know how to win, which is going to lead to a lot of losses, which will lead to a lot better draft picks. That's what it is. But all the media today pretending to be outraged by the concept of tanking is just, it's interesting to me. That's all. But so Aaron Parrish asked me, what do you suggest the NFL do instead of the current draft system? I'll tell you what I'll do. I told you on yesterday's show, I've actually pitched this theory pretty much every year. For years, I have pitched what I think that the NFL should do. Stop incentivizing losing. Stop rewarding the worst teams in the NFL with the best players coming out of college. It's that simple. When there is no benefit to losing, teams will stop trying to lose and they'll start trying to win. When the benefit of losing outweighs the benefit of winning for more than half of your sport, I promise you, it's always going to be teams that tank or that try to find ways to throw games. Yes, there's going to be a lot of teams that do things that kind of rock the basically the foundation of sports when it comes to these competitive advantages. At the end of the day, that's really what it's going to come down to. But I'll tell you exactly how the NFL can fix tanking in sports. I'll tell you exactly how, if the NFL does what I think they should do with the draft, every team in the NFL, every decision they make will be about winning and not about losing to improve draft status. If they do what I suggest, the NFL will be the best sport out there as far as how teams structure their rosters, how they structure their game plans, how they structure their goals for the season. No longer will teams try to lose to gain a competitive advantage through the draft. They will try to win by all means necessary, even if it means not winning at a Super Bowl level. Everyone will be trying to win. I'll tell you about that when we come back.
Listen, stream, watch. It's the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, right here on Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
This afternoon will be cloudy with rain, a high near 44. Tonight's going to be cloudy with rain, a wintry mix, and snow, a low around 25. And tomorrow's going to be cloudy with snow and a wintry mix, a high near 28. I'm Pete Spivak for 1410 ESPN Radio.
70% of the Fortune 100 choose Zoom. With phone, chat, workspaces, apps, events, and video in a single platform, Zoom powers all your communications. Large enterprises, small businesses, and individuals use the secure Zoom platform to enable new ways of working, learning, hosting events, and supporting their customers. And now you can save 15% on meetings, chat, and phone with a Zoom United bundle. Visit zoom.com/bundle. Zoom, how the world connects.
Hey y'all, this is your girl Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
Hey, here to tell you about my friends at Cordell Transportation. They're now hiring Class A CDL drivers and offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus. That's right, a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Home daily, dedicated lanes, and no-touch freight. Brand new equipment as well. Medical, dental, vision, and company-paid life insurance. Call Cody right now. Apply online at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well,
Trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/find. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/find. That's ZipRecruiter.com/find. ZipRecruiter.com/find.
Everybody knows that Roosters is a fun, casual joint with their award-winning waitstaff, great food, fun, and laughter. It's a quick stop on the way home to sit back and unwind. It's a front row seat to the big game. Roosters is where you, your family, and friends can order pizzas, sandwiches, salads, and more. And the home of award-winning wings that are fresh, never frozen, and so big you won't believe it. It's your family's other dinner table. Roosters, a fun, casual joint, and proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Game time, you know what that means. Burgers, dogs, your favorite ice-cold beverage, and football. Hi, this is Kirby with Audio Etc. And if you're going to invite the gang over, you can't do it on that old-fashioned high-def TV. What you need to do is come by Audio Etc.'s crazy cool showroom and see the latest in 4K picture, 4 times the resolution of high definition, and experience it in 11.2 Dolby Atmos surround sound. Until you do that, you're just watching some big guys run around the field with numbers on it. See, hear, and feel what you've been missing. Installation available. 1 year, same as cash to QBs, not quarterbacks, qualified buyers, Audio Etc. Dayton's finest audio and video. And remember, all 4K TVs and projectors from Audio Etc. are gluten-free. Audio Etc. 551 Congress Park Drive at the corner of Paragon in Centerville, or call 434-9770.
Audio Etc.'s crazy cool showroom.
Add a stylish look to your bathroom with help from Menards. Max has more than 1,000 bathtubs, shower kits, and shower doors to add luxury to your life. Our selection of Hannah shower kits come in finishes like brushed nickel, chrome, dark bronze, and matte black, and are designed with clean, modern lines, chic hardware, and a reversible configuration for left or right installation. Save big money with Max bathroom products. Now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. So good, you gotta try it. With Straight Talk, you can get our Silver Unlimited plan for just $45 a month. Now with unlimited high-speed data, plus 5 gigabytes hotspot data, and no contract, with nationwide 5G on America's best networks. Why pay a whole lot for your data when you can get unlimited for a whole lot less? Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
Water stains on the shower glass. Try rubbing some shaving cream on them.
Tyler's cleaning crew knows every housekeeping trick in the book.
Handling timesheets now.
But they need a proper bookkeeper to keep finances tidy.
New equipment is a business expense, right?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Millions of people use Zoom Phone, the innovative and feature-rich cloud phone system for businesses of any size. Zoom Phone is simple to use, whether you're on a mobile device, desktop, laptop, or desk phone. And because every call is important to your business, Zoom Phone was built with reliability in mind, using geographic redundancy to keep your communications online. Empower your workforce with Zoom Phone. Visit zoom.com/phone system. Zoom, how the world connects.
Make this the winter of you with Audible. Listen to the latest thrillers, motivation, wellness, and more with podcasts, audiobooks, and originals all in one app. Sign up and start free at audible.com.
You want more local content from Dayton's ESPN radio station, 1410 Wing AM? Make sure you subscribe to the WING 1410 Dayton YouTube channel, where you can watch all your local shows live, or go back and rewatch previous episodes of the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, the Keith Byers Show, Talking Out Loud with Sully, and more.
right, we are back. Justin Kinner. No Kev Nash today, by the way. Kev Nash will be back on the show later on in the week. Kev Nash back at home. We tried to do this whole, like I do the show from the studio. He does the show from his home. And, of course, we rely on technology, and it always bites you in the butt, right? So just me you're stuck with today ahead of this Snowmageddon, or at least this Ice Stormageddon, or whatever's coming as far as that's concerned. But do hope everyone at least has a plan. Don't go out if you don't have to. I know everyone loves being preached to and talked to and told what to do. You're all adults. You know what the hell you're doing. But at least pay attention to the radar. Don't get mad at the news and weather networks who are trying to warn you what the radar is telling you. The weather changed. Things change. Information changes. So when they give you the weather report, it's based on what the radar is showing them right now at the moment. Obviously, things change. I don't know why you shoot the messenger. You always get mad at the messenger. I'll never understand that. But they work very hard. I appreciate the work that they do. We're very fortunate. I'm sure every city has great, weather coverage, but I feel like we have some of the best here in this city, especially. I mean, when you think about some of the storm catastrophes that we've had to experience, whether it be the winter storms, but obviously with the tornadoes every fall and spring, you have to worry about those bad storms coming in. It's unbelievable. We're fortunate to have the weather crews that we do here in town. So make sure you take advantage of that. Dayton 24/7 now. I'm always, following. I know a lot of those people very well. They do a great job, just like everyone in this city does, but just pointing out, follow one of the networks in town and keep track of the storm that's going on, especially for travel purposes and safety purposes and what have you. So I promise you tomorrow will be more Super Bowl centric a little bit as far as I'm concerned when it comes to prepping for the Bengals and the Rams and the Super Bowl 10 days from now. How about that? But yesterday, and last thing on this Brian Flores thing, and then I'll move on from it. But, I was so annoyed today at Dominique Foxworth and Marcus Spears and everybody who was just morally outraged at the idea that the Dolphins were trying to incentivize their coach to lose ball games to improve their draft status. And I scratched my head like, are you guys really that weird that you don't think that tanking is a part of sports? That's literally all we talk about. That's all the Philadelphia 76ers have done for years, and they always labeled it as, trust the process. Yeah, I know we're losing a lot, fans, and you're getting frustrated, but hey, just trust the process. We know what we're doing. Yes, we suck, but we suck on purpose. We're planning it, okay? We have an end game as far as that's concerned. That's what I find fascinating, is people just getting so angry about that stuff. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things where when I think about it big picture, I'm like, how can these athletes be so shocked that tanking is a part of it? Now, I know how competitive these athletes are. There's no way you can go to, you think about some of the great high school talent we have in this area. There's not a bone in their body that is built with DNA that's going to allow them to lose on purpose, right? It takes a special human being, and not in a good way, to want and purposely lose a ball game. Okay, it's hard to do. But what tanking is putting your team in a position to not have the necessary tools to succeed. That's kind of really what tanking is to me, because I don't think that tanking starts with the head coach or the players. I think that the coach coaches what he has, and the players play no matter who's out on the field or who's out on the court, who's out on the ice, or what have you. Tanking starts at the top. Tanking is a business term. Tanking is are we going to invest into this team or not? Rebuilding is tanking. You can everyone acts like tanking and rebuilding are two different things. They're not. When you're rebuilding, who can you name a team that wins while they rebuild? I can't. Teams don't win while they rebuild. They don't. You're getting rid of all your big salary players, and usually the big salary players, if you have a good owner, that means they're your best players. The players that make the most at some point or are currently your best players, if you're unloading them, you're making your team worse. If you're not replacing the good players that you got rid of with more good players, you are purposely making your team worse. You are not making moves to win ball games in any sport. It's as simple as that. Everything is tanking. Every decision you make that is not bettering your team to win now is tanking. Don't care how you want to spin it. Trust the process. Rebuilding, whatever you want. We don't rebuild, we reload. Whatever little cute catchphrase you want to throw out there to make yourself feel better about a rebuild. Rebuilding is tanking. Simple as that. So what the owner of the Dolphins basically presented to Brian Flores was a $100,000 bonus per loss during that 2019 season because they really wanted Joe Burrow. Brian Flores, the reason that the beef started between him and the front office was because he was not willing to purposely throw ball games. Like, oh, they wanted him to throw ball games. Well, yeah, they wanted him to. I mean, winning doesn't benefit them. They're not a team that's going to win a Super Bowl. So if you win 8 or 9 games, now you're going to be sitting in that 13, 14, 15 range in the draft, and you're not going to get the best players. So, I mean, you're not going to get a transitional player in that 13, 14, 15 pick. You want to be picking in the top 5. If you're going to be, rebuilding, you want to be there. And Brian Flores wouldn't do it. So to stick it to the ownership, he won. This is such a weird storyline. Good for Brian Flores, by the way. I'm not anti-Brian Flores. I'm anti-people that thinking that an owner wanting his team to lose to improve his draft stock is wrong. That's basically what sports is. And it's like that because of the stupid draft format. I blame the draft format for why tanking exists. Because when you reward bad performance, when you reward bad results, when you reward losing, you're, of course, going to get this. What is the incentive to winning if winning can keep you from improving your roster and winning can keep you from improving your roster to win at that next level, being getting a Super Bowl, a World Series, and NBA Finals, what have you? Well, the NFL, it's very simple. The incentive to lose outweighs the incentive to win because there's only a handful. Every year you go into the season, there's maybe 5 or 6 teams that you think has an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. This is a bad year to use that example, seeing as the Bengals were like 1 to 125 or whatever the hell. What were the odds for the Bengals to win it all? No one gave the Bengals a shot. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. And rightfully so. That speaks volumes about how good the organization has been as far as building this roster. But like nobody, the Bengals are a great story because it just doesn't happen. You don't go from winning 6 games in 2 years to a freaking Super Bowl in that quick of a turnaround. It just doesn't happen. So that's what I find fascinating about all this. But the tanking format or the NFL draft format is what is responsible for teams tanking, for owners incentivizing coaches to maybe take their foot off the gas and maybe not game plan as hard. Maybe take the night off. Take your girl out. Go out on a date night. Maybe don't watch as much film. Maybe just don't be as prepared. Because, hey, winning, you're not helping us. The more you win, the less chance we have of getting Joe Burrow. And obviously, Brian Flores continued to win games. Obviously, the Dolphins did not get, Joe Burrow. And then to add salt to the wound, what ends up happening here is the fact that the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow is responsible for the Bengals being in the Super Bowl. And now the owner is pissed. The Dolphins owner is pissed because had Brian Flores did exactly what he told him to do, it could be the Dolphins in the Super Bowl this season. Right? Like it does. I do think there's a correlation. I think that the Joe Burrow situation in Cincinnati has led to the tipping point. Yes, I know that there's a lot of racial implications in this class action lawsuit that's being, filed against the NFL. Race is a big part of it. But I do think that Joe Burrow was the tipping point. I know that sounds crazy, but I think that Joe Burrow's success, Joe Burrow being an MVP candidate, Joe Burrow winning the AFC North, Joe Burrow winning his organization their first playoff game in 31 years, Joe Burrow leading his team to a Super Bowl in year 2 is exactly what has really enhanced the flame of the tension between, at one point, the head coach of the Dolphins, Brian Flores, and their team owner. That's exactly what it is. That team owner is pissed because had Brian Flores did exactly what he said, lose games, they would have Joe Burrow. They would be the ones at SoFi preparing to take on the Los Angeles Rams. Joe Burrow is why I think that the tension's boiled over, in my humble opinion. I really do. Obviously, there's a lot more that, it's layered as far as the issues with the Dolphins and the owner and Brian Flores. But I think that Joe Burrow was the centerpiece of it because the owner really wanted him. When you look back heading into last year's draft, the Bengals or 2 years ago's draft. Wow, time's flying. The Miami Dolphins were willing to unload 3 first-round picks to be able to acquire him. To acquire the number 1 overall pick because they wanted Joe Burrow. They were willing to unload 3 number 1 picks and more to get Joe Burrow. That's how much they wanted him. And because Brian Flores disobeyed the orders of the owner, they weren't in position to get him. And now look, the Bengals in the Super Bowl, the Dolphins looking for a head coach. It's as simple as that. That's where the tension came from. But you know why that situation existed? The draft format. When you incentivize teams to lose, you will always have weird, uncomfortable integrity conversations, about winning and losing. You should always be game planning to win. How teams even consider losing to benefit them is beyond me. But when it comes to we should lose to help benefit our draft status, our draft selection, or rank, it makes sense from a business perspective. It makes sense why you would want to lose ball games if it means getting, a once in a generation quarterback like a Joe Burrow, right? So it makes sense why you would do that. Here's how, if they did what I have been pitching for years, and I'm a little annoyed. I don't have a big following. Nobody knows who the hell I am. I've been pitching this idea that is officially taken off now, with national media, and I'm getting no credit for it. And I have no problem being petty, saying that I'm annoyed that I'm not going to get credit for this. But I have been arguing with Mark Schlemmer. I've been arguing with Kev Nash. I've been arguing with Keith Byers. I've been arguing with everybody about my idea for how to fix the draft for years now. In fact, I went back and I found the very first time I ever brought this idea to the table. It was back in 2017. And I've never heard anyone else talk about it, but this year the tweets are making their rounds, and I'm a little jealous because I'm not getting the attention for it, and I deserve it. I don't do a lot of things right. I feel like this is one of the best ideas I've ever had. So Michael David Smith on Twitter, he's the managing editor for Pro Football Talk. He tweets out that the NFL needs to eliminate incentives for losing. Well, I've been saying that for years. It's time to change the draft order so that the first pick goes to the team that wins the most games after it was eliminated from the playoffs. Teams should be playing to win. I've been saying that for years, and I am super petty, and I want credit for that. But yes, that is exactly what I have been saying for years. That the NFL needs to stop, and really all sports do it. I mean, I know the NBA lottery, but you're still taking the worst teams in the NBA and giving them the highest % chance to get the number 1 overall pick. And I think that that's wrong. Talk about that later. But as far as the NFL is concerned, the draft format is exactly why the NFL is in this situation. The NFL is thriving, by the way. You just had a team go from worst to first to the Super Bowl all within a 1-year span. Okay. So, but the reason that's such a great story is the Bengals is because that doesn't happen. Okay. It's not like that's the norm. It's not like the NFL teams regularly go from 4 wins to 14 wins in sitting in the Super Bowl. That doesn't happen. That's why, it's not like you could plan and build that. But here's the deal. Stop incentivizing teams to lose. Stop rewarding them for losing. Oh, well, you only win 2 games this year. Congratulations, Bengals. You get Joe Burrow. With all due respect, you won 2 games. You do not deserve Joe Burrow. You should not be rewarded when your organization in a sport that is built for you to at least win 6 to 7 games a year on a bad year. You're winning 2 and you get Joe Burrow. This isn't me hating on the Bengals, by the way. I've been saying this even before that was an example. I don't think that the Jaguars deserve Trevor Lawrence. I think that the NFL risks hurting its product every year by taking the best talent in college and sending them to the worst pro football organizations in football. I mean, how do you expect? I mean, there's a learning curve from college to the pros to begin with. How do you expect a young 20, 21-year-old to transition into the NFL with no good receivers, no offensive line, no run game, probably a new and experienced head coach, or, not a very good situation? How are you supposed to learn the game if you don't have talent around you? You ask yourself, Patrick Mahomes, it's such a great story. Is it? It really makes a lot of sense, actually. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. It was a lot easier to be Patrick Mahomes coming into the NFL when you automatically had a great offensive line. You automatically had Tyreek Hill, and you had Travis Kelce. You had dominant weapons. You had Andy Reid. You had Eric Bieniemy. You had everything. You had Alex Smith to help, mentor you the first year. The Chiefs had everything that you can imagine to allow him to learn the game, and the learning curve was sped up significantly because he had talent around him. Joe Burrow's, I think that his learning curve increased because you had Jamar Chase in year 2. You had T. Higgins right off the bat. You had Tyler Boyd right off the bat. You had Joe Mixon right off the bat. You had an offensive-minded head coach in Zach Taylor, who I may not have been a big fan of, but that goes a long way. When you are brought to an organization that has enough pieces for you to succeed as a quarterback, guess what? You're going to flourish. Jacksonville, what did they do for Trevor Lawrence? They gave him Urban Meyer, who I was never a fan of him going. I'm a big Urban fan, but I wasn't an Urban to the NFL fan. What weapons did he have to be able to flourish? You had all the drama with the coach, the chaos, the noise, and then guess what? He looks average, throws a ton of interceptions by the end of the year. People are labeling him a bust. How is that fair? Stop rewarding bad teams with good players, because there's not a lot of Bengals situation. I can't believe I'm using them in this as an example, but they did a good job, and I did not think that they did during the time, but you look back at it, they were making the right moves. I just was not conditioned to looking at the Bengals as an organization that made the right moves. After years of making so many bad decisions, how was I supposed to know that the next 5 or 6 decisions they made were going to be the ones that really turned the franchise around? So I kudos to them. But there's not a lot of examples of that, of the Chiefs and of the Bengals. There's way more examples of teams like the Seattle Seahawks who have to draft Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, who falls into a great situation with that defense. But Russell Wilson, if he was a highly sought-after talent as a first-round talent, he's going to a bad organization, and Russell Wilson's probably not Russell Wilson in the NFL. It's as simple as that. That's what, you know what I mean? Like, that's really what it comes down to. Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a superstar right now. That's not who he was the first couple years in the league. He was horrible the first couple years in the league. And then all of a sudden you get a Stephon Diggs, you get a couple weapons in Cole Beasley, you get an offensive mind, head coach and offensive coordinator. And guess what? Your career takes off. Why? Because you finally got into a good situation. Some quarterbacks fall right into a good situation. Others don't. It's as simple as that. Stop sending your best college talent to the worst situations in the draft format. Here's how you fix the NFL draft. I've been saying this for years. How you fix the NFL draft is as simple as this. You stop giving the number 1 overall draft pick to the worst organizations in football. Jacksonville should not have the number 1 overall pick 2 years in a row. Cincinnati, the Bengals, at that time, this was my mindset, they should not be rewarded 2 years in a row with top 5 draft picks. If you aren't a good organization that is putting your best foot forward to win in the regular season, you should not be rewarded in the offseason with awesome talent like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and what have you. But it is what it is. They're in the Super Bowl. I'm not angry about that. It's just an example. So with that being said, I think that you need to reward the teams who are actually giving an F, trying to win football games. The Jaguars should not have Trevor Lawrence last year and then get the top defensive player or offensive player in this year's draft. It should not work that way. So imagine, so if you look at the teams and how it's set up, you should go to the teams that just missed the playoffs, the teams that at least tried to win. You look at the Chargers with Justin Herbert. They tried to win. They tried to win. They were right there. In fact, they lost that game against the Raiders on the final week of the regular season. Boom, they're eliminated. That stinks. They should be rewarded for competing until the very end. Not the Jaguars, who were basically holding on to that number 1 overall pick for the final 2 months of the season. They don't want to try and win. They don't want to make good moves in the offseason. They shouldn't be rewarded for it the next offseason with another top draft pick. I think the order of the draft should start with the first team that missed the playoff on down. Let's talk about Joe Burrow. Let's go back to that 2019 season. Here's an example. The last team that was eliminated, so the Tennessee Titans were 9-7. They were the last team to make the playoffs. The organization that was just on the outside looking in, the Los Angeles Rams, were 9-7. They missed the playoffs that year. They were the first team out, okay? The Los Angeles Rams in 2019 should have had the number 1 overall pick, not the Cincinnati Bengals. I promise I'm not hating on the Bengals. They just happen to fit in this situation. I bring this up, and the Rams are in the Super Bowl. They have Matthew Stafford, but can you imagine, okay? Can you imagine Sean McVay's offense with Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow doesn't miss the last 2 months of last season with an injury because he would have had an offensive line. He would have had Cooper Kupp. He would have had weapons galore. The Rams are probably winning last year's Super Bowl. The Rams would definitely be winning this year's Super Bowl, right? Like, I know they have Matthew Stafford, but they never would have had to give up the farm to go get a Matthew Stafford because they could have got their quarterback in Joe Burrow. They would have been set. Can you imagine the Rams getting that? The Pittsburgh Steelers were 8-8. They were the next team out. Maybe the Rams don't get Joe Burrow that year. What if the Steelers would have drafted Joe Burrow to be the heir apparent to Big Ben Roethlisberger, right? They should have been. The draft order in 2019 or 2020, should have been the Rams have the number 1 overall pick, the Steelers, the Bears, and the Cowboys. Can you imagine Joe Burrow falling to any of those teams? The Bears getting Joe Burrow. Can you imagine? Like that would have sped up their, improvement or what have you. This is how the draft order should be. The teams that were competitive until the very end of the season should be rewarded with the top draft picks. And the teams that finished dead last, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, only 4 wins or whatever it was that they have, I look at them and I say, you had $70 million in cap space and you refused to spend it last year. So that's on you. If you are not spending to put good talent out on the field and you're not winning ball games, that's on you. Oh, but you're going to hurt them by them not getting draft pick. We're not talking about them picking number 32 in the draft. We're talking about the Jaguars now picking 15. The draft order starts with the first team that made the playoffs should get the number 1 overall. The first team that missed the playoffs should get the number 1 overall pick and work your way back. So the Jaguars would still get a top 15 pick. You would still get a good, decent quality player, but you shouldn't be rewarded with the best player in the college football coming in for the draft. I think that's ridiculous. I think you hurt more careers than you help. And I think that you would have every year teams would be competing to move up. The 2-win Bengals team would then have to spend money to improve to a 7 to 8-win team to then try to be that team that gets a top 5 draft pick the next year and be rewarded for winning football games. And then that Pittsburgh Steelers team that's 8 or 9 wins that just missed the playoffs that year, and the Los Angeles Rams that just missed the playoffs that year. The Rams get Joe Burrow, boom, they're instantly Super Bowl contenders. The Steelers get Joe Burrow, boom, they're instantly Super Bowl contenders, right? Like, that's what I mean. You're going to reward the teams that are fringe teams. Give the fringe teams the top players, because now the fringe teams become playoff contenders and Super Bowl contenders. So all the playoff contenders from this year, you'll have a bunch of new playoff contenders into the mix with the current teams, and then the bad teams are trying to compete to move up into the top 5 draft picks for next year. Everyone is winning. Everyone is spending. Everyone is trying to build as strong a roster as possible. The NFL was fun this year. It could be even better. And I think this shouldn't just be an NFL method or approach. It should be professional sports across the board. Stop rewarding teams for losing. I'm glad that this idea is picking up steam, even though I won't get credit for it, but that's fine. But I'm hoping my listeners will vouch for me that I've been preaching about this mindset for years. If you reward the teams that gave it their all and missed the playoffs and give them the top draft picks, those teams now become Super Bowl or at least high AFC, NFC championship contenders right away. They deserve that. They should get that. For instance, this year, you look at the talent coming out of the draft. It's not a ton quarterback-wise, but you look at the team, the first team to miss the Colts. Can you imagine bolstering their defensive line with some of the guys coming out of Michigan, with some of the guys coming out of Oregon? I mean, my goodness, with all the wide receivers in this draft coming up, I mean, can you imagine if you look at, the Chargers? They're going to be right there at the top. They would be in the top 5. They'd be able to, if the Browns are right there at the top and they can get Thibodeau, they can get some of those guys to be able to bolster that line too. I think this is the route that the NFL needs to go. I'm sorry for over harping on it, but it is what it is. But I just wanted to get that out. So Doug Bagley says, interesting take, will never happen, but well thought out. Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear. Damon Hahn says, spread the money and allow for the teams to stay intact longer. Exactly. I mean, you got to think a team like the Steelers, that defense they have, I know no one cares about the Steelers, but if they were able to draft Joe Burrow, because they were the second team out of the playoff that year, maybe the Rams liked Jared Goff that year. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want, maybe they go Tua. Who knows? But if the Steelers could have drafted Justin Herbert, let's say that Joe Burrow went to the Rams number 1 in 2020, because the way my format would work, the first team to miss the playoff gets the number 1 overall draft pick, and you start from there and move your way back instead of the worst team with the worst record getting it. Now you send Joe Burrow to a 2-win Bengals team. Now, again, it worked for the Bengals, but that doesn't work that way. It never does. It never works this way. So I'm really happy that it worked out that way for the Bengals. But as far as I'm concerned, if the Rams get Joe Burrow, they're winning a Super Bowl last year, right? And then the Steelers would have that next pick. If they get Justin Herbert, Big Ben probably calls it a career after last year. The Steelers are probably your AFC North champions this year. They're not tying the Lions. They may not get blown out by the Bengals, but they're competitive with the Bengals. I just think that those are the teams, those fringe teams need to be rewarded with the best talent coming out, because a lot of times those fringe 7, 8, 9-win teams, they're good structurally. They got good defensive players. They have good enough offensive players. Sometimes they're just missing that Joe Burrow. Sometimes they're just missing that Justin Herbert. And those fringe teams need those quarterbacks more than some crap-ass Jacksonville Jaguars team who needs a quarterback and an offensive line and wide receivers and running backs and a D-line, and the list goes on and on and on. Please, I want that format. I think the NFL would flourish if they did that. So there you go. All right, folks, that wraps it up for us here today. I appreciate all of you being patient. It was kind of a different show today, going solo. Phones having issues, empty building, this freaking Armageddon coming our way with this storm, right? Be safe. I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow. Until tomorrow, this has been the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty, and of course, Timothy's Bar and Grill on Brown Street. Good luck to the Dayton Flyers as they're in action tonight. The Wright State Raiders will be back out on the hardwood tomorrow as well. It's also college basketball season, folks. It's a great time of year. We'll talk more Bengals tomorrow. Take care.
The Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash, presented by Brad Mays with Home Experts Realty. Weekdays at 3 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hi, this is Keith Byers. If you suffer from chronic joint pain, don't assume that steroid shots, pain pills, and surgery are your only options. You can now get real, lasting, life-changing relief from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in using biologic therapies to repair damaged tissue in your aching joints. The success rate is staggering. People with knee and back pain, shoulder pain, and hip pain, they're moving again, enjoying life with the help of QC Kinetics. This advanced, unique treatment protocol uses natural biologic agents, mostly from your own body. These powerful, highly concentrated growth factors are put directly into your affected joint, going to work to soothe the inflammation and restore damaged tissue. Finally, a new, different, highly successful approach to dealing with joint pain. Is it time you got a second opinion? Call QC Kinetics now and wake up to a life without pain. Call QC Kinetics at